What's up, guys? Today we are here with the most decorated player in Smogon history, McMeghan. Say hi to the people.
Hello, everyone, and a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me, PKC.
Of course, but the first thing I have to ask is the origin of your accent, since our other guests have been from anywhere USA, whereas you've got some sort of Terminator thing going on, so do explain.
I mean, my first language is French, and I live in Belgium. So my English was taught in school, and then mostly on the internet. So there is a weird mix of bit of everything, and that's how I ended up with my current English.
God, I hope the viewers can understand you. Um, I'm sure they will if they try really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those who don't know, when McMeghan first burst onto the Smogan scene, then he could barely string together a sentence. And that's just not me being mean. That's actually true. It was really funny. If you look up his post from 2011, then you'll find some really funny stuff. Anyway, enough of me being a jerk. So, how did you get started with competitive Pokemon?
Well, where do I start? I know I answered this question in the past, so I took the answer from back then since it didn't change, you know. And I started playing Pokemon in early 2006. It was a time where I had just put the internet. Well, I had just gotten the access to internet in my household, and I looked up online some tips for Pokemon Emerald in particular. And on the French website, which was known as Pokemon France, there was like a section in the Pokemon Emerald info about competitive in general. And they were talking about Net Battle at the time, which was the simulator for ADV games. And I don't know, I started reading this page and like I got interested in it, so I tried to play online a bit, and that's how I got started.
And what happened after Net Battle?
I played a lot in that during the net, so during the ADV era net battle, and then I kind of lost interest after some times. It still lasted a few years, and then I lost interest a bit after Shorty Battle came out, and I really got back into Pokemon and Smogon in particular because I mentioned that while I played on net battle, and even though Smogon already existed back then, I wasn't playing on Smogon the server. Neither did I join the website. I was just playing with the other French people. And like I said a bit earlier, I stopped playing during DP after Showy Battle came out. And then later on, since I was still playing the Pokemon game like on cartridge, I bought Black and White. And after I beat the main storyline in Black and White, I looked up some tips about the game online. And that's where I discovered another strategic section, like with ADV, but this time in black and white. And just reading everything, uh, it's like I was interested in the game again, and I wanted to know how it was working and everything. So I downloaded Pokemon online this time, and there was still a lot of French people from the Net Battle era, so it was great to see my friends again, talk with them. And they were talking about the Smogon tours, and that's where I started playing on Smogon, and I didn't stop. I haven't stopped playing since then.
That's where McMeghan broke out in the Black and White 1 era. And that
Yeah.
leads us to our next question. How did you become established as a top player? Because there are a lot of people who find their way into competitive Pokemon, but not everyone manages to, in fairly short a time, break into the upper echelon of the scene.
Yeah. Well, I started playing on the ladder, like almost everyone when they start playing Pokemon, they just get on the ladder and test a bit on everything. So for a few months, I was just playing on the ladder, and I was just discussing with some French people, and I became I started getting recognized as a good player because I wanted to play some Smogon tours. And there was also it was also during the summer, and summer means the World Cup on Smogon. So I already had some experience from back in the days when I was playing ADV, which means even though I was starting anew in black and white, I already had some basics down, you know, like game planning, how to win, how to make teams, etc. It's not like I was starting from nothing. Even though it looked like it to Smogon players because I was new to them, it wasn't the case for me. And so I was doing okay on the ladder, and then the World Cup came around, and I played on the newly formed at the time Benelux team, and I got a 3-0 in World Cup. So that already attracted some attention to me from people who didn't know me at the time. And there was also the fact that, like I said, I wanted to play some smoke controls. And since I was familiar with black and white from the ladder, I immediately did well in smoke controls, or almost immediately. Not like I won the first one, but there wasn't a lot. There wasn't much time until I was doing well in smoke control already. And also something to keep in mind is at the time, smoke control format was ADV, DPP, and black and white. And I already had a lot of ADV knowledge from back in the days, even though I had to to know about the current ADV. Well,
to readjust, yeah.
Yeah, I had to readjust to the ADV metagame of the time, right? But I already knew how to play it, so I did well in the first full smoke control season I could play. I think I did well, and I even qualified for top 16. And then with the World Cup and the smoke controls, which brought me to Smogon, I started also to join the unofficial tournament at the time. Like, I know that unofficial tournament nowadays don't have a good reputation and don't attract good players. But back then, everyone was playing then on Smogon. All the tournament players, if you probably remember that.
That's
right?
correct. Nowadays, the unofficial tournaments forum is dead as a doornail. But back then, you would see cool stuff happening all the time, like best of 3 ADV SmackDown. All kinds of cool stuff. DPP, UU Ubers, and you would see good player after good player in it, and people actually cared about them. Like, you would see prediction posts in these unofficial threads and people congratulating the winners, and now it's like XYZ tournament finals, one post. The post is 1 GG.
That's what I was gonna say, because not only was the scene, the unofficial tournaments active, but everyone actually cared about them. They didn't just join them and just dropped out because they didn't care, which is what happened later. Yeah, everyone was posting predictions. Everyone was putting preparation. You had beef like you have now in an official tournament from the unofficial, because people cared. And I was doing well in those two, so that's how I established myself as a top player, to fully answer your question.
And it's been a long ride since then, because this establishing came about in 2011.
It wasn't near the end of 2011.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And we're still here, but, that's not a bad thing. So, since you've become a top player, what are some of the proudest accomplishments that you've been able to achieve since that time?
Well, I mean, I have a lot right now, but it all went little by little. Because I remember when I started playing on Smogon, the thing that brought me in was the Smogon Tour. So my first goal was to win just a single Smogon Tour, not the whole thing with the trophy, but just one tournament from the evening,
No, of course, because the live Smogon tours are so fun. It's like,
right.
I remember what the French players used to say, and you could kind of get a glimpse of how they viewed it. If someone won a Smogon tour, they would say, GG for your tour, or congrats for your tour. Not the whole thing, just the one live tour, because it's the best feeling in the world. And you could tell that they really viewed it as that is it.
Dude, it's not that the French have a complex of inferiority, but we were just worse in general than the Americans. So just one of them winning one single Smogon tour was big, and everyone was talking about it.
No, it must be the coolest thing ever. Like your friend Jean-Pierre Lucard or whatever. I totally made that name up. So your friend Jean-Pierre is going up against the American Smogon, heroes, and he's just knocking out. I'm just gonna make up names that because I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. But he's going through the black and white Smogon tour. He's knocking out Wilson 46 and Frankie and other names people won't remember.
That wasn't exactly, dude.
Still around. But yeah, just stuff like that. And Golden Sun's not even. Actually, I didn't name a single American player in that, but you get the idea. He's just knocking out all the big Smogon guys, and you're cheering him on with all your friends. Like, go get him, Jean-Pierre, you French son of a. Okay, yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah, I get yeah, and that was my first like very accomplishment. I was really proud of just winning a single smoke. And after that point, since I kept doing well, I started like setting myself some more goals, which were like harder and harder to get to. But that's what like gave me motivation to keep improving too. And if I have like to look back right now at my so to speak career, and well, I have to say that I'm pretty proud of being the guy who has won the most amount of tournaments. Not official one, but if you take unofficial and everything, I'm the guy who won the most, and I'm pretty proud of that because that was one like the goal that took me the longest time to reach.
I am now pulling up the top dogs sheet, which has McMeghan firmly entrenched in number 1 with 50 wins total. No one else even has 40. And very few people even have 30. Even
I mean, you know that
even 20 is kind of an achievement, or it is an achievement. It's a significant achievement.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that a lot of the tournament were hard to win because some of them were pretty gimmick stuff, but it's just that I'm pretty proud of my consistency across the years. And well, to take something very recent, to take something that happened very recently, I'm really proud of the classic that I just won, like this Monday.
Oh man, I was hoping you would forget about that. Yeah, no, that video is on the channel for anyone who hasn't seen it. I'm a really like big fan and passionate about all generations. That's what like keeps me going on Smogon. That's what keep interesting me the most about Pokemon. Even though I still keep up with the current gen, but yeah. And this tournament was a lot of fun, and it was just great. It was great to get the trophy. Like I'm not all about trophy, but just getting some kind of recognition for my for all the work I put in all generations, that feels good. Yeah. It was also reflected in winning the most recent Advanced Cup.
Yeah, that's something I was pretty proud of too.
Hashtag shameless plug. But there's been a lot over the years. So what about within those 50 tournament wins, and sometimes even things that didn't result in tournament wins, like impressive team tournament records or shaping metagames with a certain kind of team or set? So rattle off some of those.
Yeah, right.
Maybe if you go chronologically, it might be easier.
Yeah. I did write because since like I was kind of preparing for this question, I had I wrote down some things, and well, some of my favorite competitive Pokemon memories, and which are tied to my proudest achievement.
Oh, that's perfect, actually.
Yeah, they are related to team tournaments like SPL. Team tournaments aren't, in my opinion, the best measurement of skill, but they're probably the most fun times on Smogon, because like there is the whole social aspect of it.
I agree with you that they're not the best measure of skill, but why?
I mean, a team tournament is just like maximum 11, 12 games. That's not a lot, to be fair. Like you can be on a roll, you can be a bit lucky here and there, and you look amazing because you ended up with a 9-1 record. I don't know, when you pretty much lucked half the games that has happened plenty of times. And then you have tournament like World Cup, where you literally don't face the best players on the website, because the barrier of entry is pretty low for World Cup, since almost every team get to compete, and they have weak slots. So you can be like you have to play ADV in World Cup, and you won't even face ADV mains because some teams don't even have one, or they have people who haven't played in 2 years and they are not really that good or up to the meta game. So that's why I think they are not a good representation of one skill.
What about the fact they're all best of one?
Yeah, there is that too. Like there are probably some reasons that won't come to mind. So feel free to mention them if they come to your mind, because then I can talk about it. And best of one is a good indication too. Like we know Pokemon is a game with very high variance. Anyone can beat anyone in a one given game. Especially because like in team tournaments, another aspect that you have to keep in mind is that a lot of people care about every single win. So even someone who is bad will get a lot of help from outsiders who are better than the player themselves at the tier. But just for that one game, they will get a ton of help, like good teams, a lot of preparation advice. Sometimes they will try to counter team or counter style you, and it will work. And that's why I think if you have one good team tournament, that doesn't really mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you're consistent across the years, like some players have been, it's a good like testament of your skill. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's why
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
glad
they're
you
not
mentioned
always the most competitive.
the help part. We'll be visiting that later, I'm sure. But
Yeah. To go back to the original question, if that's what you had in mind.
Yeah.
Like my proudest achievement include like my very first SPL, which was the 3rd edition.
Mm-hmm.
I won that one. Like it's still a very good memory because that was my first team tournament, but without my friends, because the first team tournament was the World Cup, but I knew the people I was playing with since World Cup was among our smaller community with the French people and everyone. But SPL, playing with McMeghan guys that I didn't know at the time, it was my first introduction to the team tournament and to this community as a whole. And it was a lot of fun, like discovering all these people from all across the globe too. The globe, I think that's a French word. All across the world, sorry. Mm-hmm. And it was a great experience. Like something else that I have in mind from this SPL is that's when I discovered all the whole gen too. Because at the time I was just playing black and white, and I had some knowledge about DPP and ADV from Spoken Tour, but all the generation and lower tiers I didn't know anything about, and I discovered them all in SPL 3, and it was a great time, and I got to win in the final too. It was I'm pretty proud about that one. And then I'm really proud.
Who were some of your teammates?
Sorry?
Who were some of your teammates?
I remember most of them. I can name Earthworm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think some of your channel watchers are familiar with that name by now, I guess.
Yes.
I had Ikari, the current Smogon administrator.
Mm-hmm.
He was our player.
That was Hikari for anyone who had to, listen again.
Ikari his old name used to be Bad Romance.
Yes, it was.
He was on my team. Who else? Like a lot of the people who played on my teams, I could mention, but they don't play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like Pieface, Flareblitz, Biker. Who else was on the team? Kyle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Such old names. So many memories. And that was a great moment. And I think the first team tournament I was super proud of was SPL 6. Mm-hmm. Because I had been brought at the star player since I had I was already established on Smogon at the time. And Funkasaurus, the manager of the Bigs, put a lot of money on me at the start of the auction. And I was the centerpiece of the team. And it's one of my favorite tournaments, a favorite accomplishment, because I felt like a leader during the whole SPL back then. Mm-hmm. I was helping everyone in every tier, giving advice, helping break. And on top of that, I managed to win almost all my games. I went 8-1 this season. Mm-hmm. And we made playoff too, even though we lost in semifinal. But it was just a successful tournament all around. And I'm really proud of, I love being the leader of my team, and people working with me and having good time with them, because we got to make friendships and everything.
Yeah, in fact, you are the most expensive player in SPL history.
Yeah, even though the season I was the most expensive was a bad season.
I'm going to try and find if I can the most expensive player lists. But keep going. So you got SPL 3, you got SPL 6.
XPL 8 was pretty good. That's the SPL with the Mazar ghosting scandal.
God.
I know, it's pretty real because the SPL as a whole was obviously a fraud because of Mazar, what he did and everything. Mm-hmm. But the season
for anyone who doesn't know, then Mazar pulled off the biggest cheating ever. It's in the SPL forum if you want to go digging. It was disgusting. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, but first of all, most of our team, I'm gonna say most of, because I suspect at least one or two people knew about it. But almost everyone didn't know about this. Like he never told anyone. We just found out like everyone after the tournament. So which means that when we were playing the actual tournament, it was like a super fun experience. And once again, it was a SPL where I got to be the leader of the team, and I was doing super well personally. I'm very proud of the earlier part of the tournament because I played like I think 3 weeks in a row. I was the last player, and I had to play in. Like my last game was the game that would mean if we would win the week or tie, or if we would win or tie the week. It was hold the eggs in one basket, if that makes sense in this context.
Yes, it does.
And which means the game had even more tension because, like, if I lose, we lose everything, and if I win, I save everyone.
I bet you really enjoy that feeling, right?
Yeah, I do. Like,
no, like actually, you actually enjoy it all falling on your shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I hate it beforehand because it puts even more stress on myself, and I'm someone who gets very nervous before my team tournament games in particular. Even individual in the past, even though that's better nowadays, but even nowadays, team tournament games always get me super nervous. And the more I wait and the more there is at stake, the more I feel nervous. I mean, that's normal. But then the emotion is so much stronger too. Like the feeling of enjoyment I get out of those wins are some of my favorite Pokemon memories.
Have you
which answers the big question that you asked.
But have you ever felt like the downsides of losing outweigh the joys of winning, especially because even in Pokemon, then no matter how good you are, you can't always win. And has it ever hung over you? The weight of a loss, and you're just like, I mean, how can I keep chasing these wins when the alternative is this bad?
Yeah, for sure. A lot, dude. Like, even when you ask that question, and I know what the answer is already gonna be, and it's yes. I ask myself how did I keep going for so long? Because that's always been a part of me. Even though I would like to always focus on the positive, I can't help but think about what's gonna happen if I lose. I'm gonna feel so I'm gonna feel so bad, And I did feel so bad in the past. I know sometimes later in the interview you're gonna ask me about my biggest regrets, and some of them involved like big team tournament in particular losses, and I can still remember how bad I felt at the time.
It's not great.
But I'm just gonna add that, like, even outside of Pokemon, because what I'm gonna say partakes to Pokemon and what I'm talking about right now, but even in life in general, I don't mind too much feeling this kind of emotion because it just adds some spices to life in general. Even if it's bad or good, I prefer feeling super high highs and super low lows rather than nothing. I'm someone like this.
So you're saying that failure colors and expands your emotional palette, and you're okay with that?
Yeah, you could say that. Like, even if I feel super bad, it means that I cared a lot, and I'm just glad I have something to care so much about, which can be Pokemon or anything in general. So I don't mind it. That's how I look back at it now.
Yeah,
I'd rather be super passionate about those things that just have a blonde life,
I found the sheet of the most expensive SPL prices, and it's not updated even through SPL 9, actually, with records and such. And that also means there's no ABR 30, whatever he was this past SPL. But you are the most expensive and the third most expensive, going for...
Aren't you the second, or is that blue?
Sorry?
Oh, that's... I was asking, aren't you the second most expensive?
No, it's blue. It's you're going for 40.5 in SPL 7. Blue went for 40 in SPL 5, and you went for 37.5 in SPL 6. That was the season with the bigs making it so far, and losing to the very clean classiest who had no cheating whatsoever.
Yeah, right. If we start talking about this right now, we're
never going to stop. Yeah, all the very blatant stuff that just you can't do anything about because it's the internet. Anyway,
right.
So moving on, some other achievements because I know you've got some more.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of tournaments I was pretty proud of winning at the time. Some games in particular, but I think we're gonna talk about this later. I'm I'm glad of the like. I'm pretty glad of my presence in general in the community.
That was
Because-
presence, by the way, not prisons.
Oh, sorry, presence. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just glad of the spot I have in the community, in the sense that, first of all, I'm glad of like the way people view me as a player, because I know I am regarded as someone who is like good and a part of the very best, and that's how I feel about myself, and I know it's the case. So I'm glad about that. And something that I always try to do, ever since I started, is, I mean, I know it sounds stupid and just like obvious, but I just try to be nice to everyone. Always like never turn down questions and everything. Just try to make the life of everyone better.
That's very
And
true. If you go through the classic thread where McMeghan recently won, half the comments aren't even "Congratulations, you're a great player." It's "Congratulations, you're such a nice guy." So.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm the nicest guy around. I have my defects too. Like I have my flaws, but I just try to be helpful, and I often get people like thanking me for it, and I'm just glad of like that reputation I got, and I still have this goal in mind to always stay down to earth, not take myself too seriously, not have too much ego, trying to treat everyone equally, everything. So yeah.
I think that's an admirable quality, because if you examine the majority of the scene, then it's, I mean, look, I know it's the internet and we're going to get involved in some shit talk, but at the same time, there's definitely a level of mean-spiritedness and put-downs that just feel really, really vicious. And it's nice to have some people who don't really partake in that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sound perfect, because I have obviously shit-talked people in the past and everything, but
McMeghan's
yeah, it's something
actually
that
one
I
of
try
the
to
world's
keep in mind.
greatest trolls. He's incredible at infuriating people.
Yeah,
we used to
I like
have
trolling,
some
but I
names
never
for
try
him.
to to cross a certain border.
You're right. Like when someone's
I like to
actually
do
just
this
lost the game, then you don't go around digging
Yeah,
at them.
obviously that
Like wow, that switch
some things
on
are just
turn 16 really
mean-spirited.
bit you in the ass, didn't it? Huh?
Yeah, give people some space when they just leave everything.
Yeah.
Classic. Should be like common courtesy, but
You would think so, right? But that's not what the
I know,
community
right?
is like these days. And
But
I
yeah, I
mean,
think
you
that's
could
about it
also
by my
make an
accomplishment.
observation that it's sad that nice people are the exception rather than the rule. But you know, that's a whole sociological thing. So we're gonna steer away from that.
yeah, right.
All
But
right.
yeah, I think that's about it for my accomplishments, dude. That's a few SPLs that I played well, my all-time tournament record, winning some big tournament here and there, enjoying the game. So
Imagine
yeah,
being
that's about
such
it.
a big shot. You don't even mention your first individual tournament you won, the Smogan Tour. Must be so nice to have won so much stuff that you're just like, oh, right, I also won a Smogan Tour, but, you know, I don't even think about that sometimes.
No, I'm pretty proud of that one, but I mean, like, okay, to answer your question,
I'm messing.
like, yeah, I know you're missing, but to answer your question, to talk about this a little bit, I'm really proud of my first Morgan to win, which was 7 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. But if I had to choose, I'd rather have won the tournament where I lost to Tesong in the final, because I put like I put more I prepared every game all by myself back then, and I even used teams that were kind of like whack looking, but they fit my ideas at the time, and like a very precise idea of how to play them. And I was really proud of all of that. And I lost it in the final, but yeah, most of my games were clean too. Like that's why if I had to choose, I would have rather won this Morgan Tour. But yeah. I'm still proud of that one back then.
We'll move on to the next question in a second, after I appreciate how much I love when people with very foreign accents use American slang like whack. It reminds me of Borat when, you know, he meets the guys from the hood and, you know, goes up to the hotel and Bang bang skeet skeet. That's except in his ridiculous accent. Anyway, so segueing from your proudest Pokemon memories, now I'm going to force you to dive into your most humiliating, horrible regrets.
Well,
To put
it's
it
good
nicely.
that you, yeah, it's good that you mentioned that because I have been asked this question in the past, and I have looked at the answer I gave back then, and it's still pretty much the same answer nowadays, even though there are maybe some things I could think about.
Mhm.
But yeah, one of my biggest regrets is losing in my first official Smogon tournament. You know, the one with the golden trophy.
Yes, that was
Uh,
against Snunch. I believe it
yeah.
was 8. Yeah,
So
I think
that
it
was
was 8.
the very first official tournament I won. Sorry, I didn't win. That I joined, sorry. And it was at the time where I was like very atop of the meta game in Black and White. I was, one of those guys who always try to be one step ahead, play a lot, analyze things, etc. And I was doing really well. I almost didn't drop a single game, I think, throughout the tournament. And then I made some semi-final, and I faced Nunch. And at the time, I didn't know about the whole scouting culture. I
That
used
was scouting, by the way.
scouting. Sorry, I didn't know about the scouting culture, the preparation thing, and I just used the same like teams or just play style across every games. And then in semifinal, I faced Nunch, who had 2 unlosable games. It was like he was very well prepped for what I had, and I just got destroyed in 2 games. I couldn't do anything.
Do you remember those matchups?
Yeah, I remember them very clearly. Like he had some Pokemons I've never seen since then, like Psychic Volcarona, which doesn't make any kind of sense, but in Black and White at least. But
Hey man, it hits Tentacruel.
it hit the Tacticals team I was using, and he had like Wobbuffet with Tickle alongside Choice Band Writer, so you can trap anything slower with Wobbuffet, anchor them on a recovery or support move. Then you lower the defense with Tickle and you trap them with Choice Band Writer. And at the time, all I used were defensive team or stall teams, and he had this super anti-stall strategy, and I couldn't do anything about it. He even had like, if Choice Band Writer and Tickle Wobbuffet weren't enough, he also had Sword Dance Virizion, which was bad, but it
Beat
just
Rainstall,
6-0.
yeah.
Yeah, it beat Rainstall, which is what I was using. And in the first game, because in the first game I always used the Sandstall and Rainstall for the second game. And in the first game he had a Sun team with Cloyster when I used the Subtoxic Gliscor in every game. But Cloyster has Icicle Speed to get through the sub and kill every Gliscor. And he had Hydreigon and Alakazam, those Sand Breakers on a Sun team. But yeah.
On a Sun team.
Yeah, on a Sun team.
Cloyster, Hydreigon, Alakazam, Sun. Wow,
I know.
That's not a counter style. That is just straight up, yup, I am counter teaming like hell.
Yeah, so yeah, I still regret this loss because of the fact that like I never put the time I used to put in Black and White at the time. I never put this much time into the main generation afterward. So I was never better poised to win the official tournament in then. It was probably my best attempt at it, and I blew it. Well, I blew it. I didn't know any better.
I mean,
so yeah,
sometimes you have to learn things the really harsh way.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's like one of my biggest regrets. Another one is like I still feel super awful about that game, but it was SPL 4 semifinal.
Yes.
And I was in the Alpha Runners, and we went 5-5 against the
Tigers.
the Tigers, right? So it went to a tiebreaker, and the tiebreaker was 1-1, and I was the very last game against Danilo in ADV. So what happened is that we played the first game, and it was pretty much a tie because it was stall against stall, and nobody was making progress. And we decided that we had to play another game, right? Because it was the deadline day. And then I brought a standard team, and I just completely choked the beginning, and I literally got 6 out from his lead. I played I played this game awfully, and it was the culminating point of our season. We would either win and go to the final, or lose and like just stop the tournament there. And I got 6-0'd by a lead Suicune like a complete noob. It was very embarrassing.
That's an ADV classic. Everyone has lost to a lead Suicune at some point.
Yeah, but for it to happen like on the big stage like this, at the final game on the tiebreaker, and to add insult to the injury, I couldn't stand Danilo at the time. He was trash talking everyone 24/7 on IRC, and I couldn't stand him. I always was like, this guy is overrated. He keeps trash talking everyone with nothing to back up whatever he's saying. I really wanted to beat him, like for my team, for myself, but also because I just couldn't stand him at the time, and I just got destroyed. I remember I felt super awful the next day. I wasn't talking or anything. Even my mom was like, "What up? What's going on? You're not like usual." And I was like, "Well, some some bad things happened yesterday. I'm gonna be fine." I remember I had to wake up early for school too because I played like very late in the night, and I almost barely slept that night. I went to school tomorrow all depressed.
Well, that's just because the European time zone is horrible for Smogan. Because I've experienced both sides of this, being in both Europe and America. And, Americans are always like, oh, let me play at, 4 or 5 p.m. Is that cool? And it's like, no, dude, that's 10 or 11 p.m. mine. I got to get up in the morning. Get up before 3 in the afternoon, and maybe we can play. You know it,
dude. Yeah, and this game happened at 3 a.m. my time, to give you an idea.
No, yeah, it's absurd. I mean, it's different for Smogan Tour because you can play at 10 and then 8 on Saturday and Sunday, and that's not too bad. But
also, like, this ties back to what I was saying earlier, in the sense that I was feeling like a lot of pressure for this game because it was important, and usually like the day of those games, where I put a lot of pressure on myself and I have to play an important game, I'm super nervous. I can't think about something else, and I barely hit. And
it just weighs over you the whole day.
Yeah, right. And when I lost, well, it didn't get any better, basically.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Right.
And that ties back to the whole: is the weight of the loss worth chasing the high of those wins? I guess.
Exactly.
I mean, the European time zone, it sounds like a stupid excuse, but it does make it worse because the entire day it's just on you. Because if you're playing some dumbass American, not that Americans are stupid at all. I would never say that. Land of the free, home of the brave. Not that any of those proud, brave soldiers would ever... I forget where I was going with that. But the idea is that if you have to play at 10 p.m., then you wake up at 9. It's like, all right, well, 13
Today
hours
is a
to go.
Good day. Yeah, dude. I'm gonna mention something real quick that I never talked about, but I think like it's a good time to bring this up. So, the very first Smogon tour I had to join, like the very first time people talked to me about it and was like, yeah, you have to join. This is super fun. We're all gonna play at the same times. And I remember it was gonna happen at like 10 p.m. like you said earlier. And it was it was during the summer, so I was on holiday, and I knew I was gonna play that day, right? But it was my very first, so and everyone was like, "Yeah, you have to be there at the minute when the trade goes up. You have to sign up, otherwise you're not gonna be in." And I'm not kidding. I literally stayed in front of my computer, refreshing the subforum every 5 minutes for literally 2 or 3 hours. I couldn't tap out. I couldn't do something. I couldn't get out of my computer. I was just so stressed about all of this. It just ties back to my personality, I guess.
Wasn't it your first one? You didn't even know how stressful it was yet.
Yeah, exactly. Too. I think I lost one.
Well.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's so like I played a few games at like 11 in the morning this summer. It's so much nicer. Last fall or autumn, then I played a Snake game at 11 in the morning, and it was great.
I guess I could try, but I only play in the morning when it's against
for that to happen, because you're in Europe and you're like, hey, can I play at like 3 p.m. my time? Dude, that's 9 a.m. for me. What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what do you mean I have to play before 4? Yeah.
I know, right? Also, to go back to your original question, which is your biggest regrets. I have the third one lined up, and I think I'm gonna stop after this one to make some progress in the interview. But after the loss to Snunch and the loss to Danilo in SPL, the third one has to be my loss against Nelson in the first Grand Slam.
Against Nelson.
Against Nelson.
Yeah.
So, to give a little bit of context, this was the very first Grand Slam on Smogon. And everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone was hyped up for it. So a lot of even OU players, they all joined.
Yes.
And I got an amazing run. That's still one of my proudest achievements.
This was one of the biggest pieces of domination. I'm going to let you pretend to be humble for a second. I'm sorry. I really sound like I'm just trying to give you a hard time, but I promise I'm not. So this is one of the biggest displays of domination ever seen. So the first Grand Slam was Ubers, UU, RU, NU, and Little Cup?
Yeah.
Little Cup. Anyway, so McMeghan won 3 of those opens. Most people are like, oh, I won 1. That's a huge achievement. He wins frigging 3 of these. It was obscene.
Yeah, dude.
And then he goes out like a buster in the playoffs too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry for the self-brag, but I won 3 of them, and I went into the semi-final of RU and the quarterfinal of NU. I was just tearing it up. And the worst part is that I beat Nelson in 3 of those Open, and then we met in the first one of Grand Slam. And for those of you who don't know Nelson was one infuriating guy. He would always try to get up on someone's nerves. He was very obnoxious. So there was
that sounds right.
This whole aspect of the game too. And then I lost the first one to him after beating him 3 times. I got a bit unlucky, but I also didn't play really that great over the course of the whole series. And that felt awful to go out so soon after dominating so much.
Yeah, Pokemon's a funny game like that. That's one of the best examples to show what can happen on any given Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
just one off day, and it all goes out of the window. Because
that's why I've been pushing for double elimination lately. Actually, I'm a big fan of that. So you're not one and done. But anyway, so then Nelson went on to beat Blue in the next round, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And then, thank God, he lost. And normally, I try to not be biased on this channel, but no, thank God, because
I'm gonna mention that when he played the final, it was against Ciel. I've never rooted for for someone else so much than Ciel that day against Nelson.
Yeah, he was down 0-2 too, and then brought it back.
I definitely felt stronger emotions for Ciel's win this day than for some of my wins.
No, that's not too strange, because not all wins are equal, and some other people's wins are like, oh, thank God. Either it's like, oh, my friend who really deserved it won, or oh, thank God, that guy who I can't stand lost. That's a big part of what drives competition these days.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not enough that you just want to win. You want to win just so the other guys who are so loud and obnoxious for the sake of it, just so they don't.
Exactly. It's like my game against Danilo.
You get a lot of lesser of two evils scenarios in that. Anyway, I'm sorry for making you revisit these traumas. That's never fun.
It's fine.
As long as you grow from them, then,
Exactly.
So now let's go back to a happy note. So, some of your favorite, proudest tournament games ever.
And
we have these prepared because we colluded beforehand.
Yeah, right. Something I didn't ask you about this question, but does it have to be tournament games of mine, or
can
it be other
be
people's?
Anything. I would put precedence on yours, but if there are others that you think, that's almost its own separate question. Like, what games are you proudest of having played yourself? And then the separate question would be something like, what other tournament games did you really enjoy, or what really influenced you, like when you were starting, or just something you saw recently that you thought, well, this was just ideal. Something like that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start by the games that I've played first.
Yes.
And then I will touch upon the second question. So, there are probably a lot that don't come up to mind right now, but every time I get asked this question, the games I'm gonna mention always come up to mind. So, I mean, they have left a stronger impact of myself. So first of all, the series against PDC and Tesang in the Smogon Tour 20 playoffs.
I am now
Well,
playing the black and white game from that.
Which one, against PDC or Tesang?
Yes, PDC.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very proud of the series against PDC because, for example, in black and white, I think I played the game literally perfectly. I didn't make a single misstep. And I know that, like, when I saw the preview, I know that my team was literally unprepared to face Volcarona. If he got, like, just one Quiver Dance for free, he won the game on the spot. And I think I played perfectly, so he would never have, he would never have Volcarona on the field with a setup chance, and he would never get to spin my rocks off. I like, you would have to go to...
Could you rephrase that?
I just played in such a way that, first of all, he would never get to Quiver Dance for free with Volcarona. And once I got my rocks up, he would never manage to keep them off, even though he had a Stormy. And typically, Stormy team can afford to suicide spin Stormy into setup Volcarona, right? But I positioned myself in such a way that this would not happen. And I made some, I think, a clever plays across the game. Like at some point, I had +1 Reniculus against his Terrakion, I think.
Yeah, we actually just got there.
Okay,
Yeah.
and instead of killing it, I just set up another Calm Mind, and I let him kill you, so my Duck Trio could come on the field and beat the Terrakion. And I would have to check the exact reason why, but I think it's because if I let the Terrakion kill my Reniculus, he could set up Volcarona and win the game. And at some point, he had Stormy, he had Terrakion against Tyranitar, and I know I made a play that once again allowed me to keep my rocks up and not let the Volcarona set up. And I'm really proud about that.
And why was it so crucial to get those rocks up?
Because
Besides,
also,
duh.
I mean, it's otherwise Volcarona at full can set up on most of my Pokemons, but at 50% it cannot set up in certain situations. Like for example, at 50% it cannot set up on a +1 Reniculus, but at 50 it could, and it would win the game from there.
Especially with Sand
like
Up. Even if it doesn't take it out, then it only has 1 or 2 turns. Same against Rotom and Latias.
Yeah, exactly. Like even Latias, +1 Latias would kill a Volcarona at 50, but it's not like it wouldn't at 100, and then it would boost and it would win the game. So yeah, I think I played perfectly this game. X and Y, I also had a pretty bad match. Well, it's not that I had a bad matchup, but I just had a team where I couldn't afford, like, I'm trying to think of I'm not just trying to use a swear word here, but I couldn't afford fucking around, so I can think of a better word.
Right.
He had Carve Caldio, which 2KO'd my entire team. And I had to play very precise to not give it 3 turns, otherwise he would take the advantage, and Caldio would keep revenging my mons until he won the game.
All right, so
I felt pretty proud about those games, because I think you're gonna ask the question yourself later, but I know one of the question is, what skills do you value in Pokemon? And I think one of them is positioning, and I think I had perfect positioning in the games against Tesung in Black and White.
We're not there yet. We're still making our way through Oris. So,
okay,
detail the Oris one against PDC a little.
I think I played this one too. Like I was saying, I was pretty weak to Carve Caldio and Excadrill, but I played aggressive enough where I would be the one with I would be ahead of the game. Like I would have more Pokemon alive, so I could sacrifice something later, etc. I made some pretty aggressive play with Charizard early game and Tyranitar to pursue something. I think to pursue Latios, yeah. And with Charizard, I know, I remember in the early game, I got a good Charizard predict. Well, to put it on the field safely, rather. And I predicted Tyranitar by going for Hard Focus Blast, and I missed it, if I remember. Or rather, I missed a Stone Edge with my own Tyranitar.
It was a Stone Edge, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I managed to
Two
make a
Focus
good
Blast
double.
users on the same team. How do you live with yourself?
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't do this myself nowadays, but at the time I wasn't really looking much at the whole accuracy thing. You know, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
run those risks. It's something that I've learned from some of my losses.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think I played those games really well. It's just that sometimes you see the matchup and you know that if you don't take the lead early, if you don't apply pressure immediately, you're just gonna lose because you have something that you're too weak to. And in this case, it was Calf Caldio or it was Calf Caldio and Excadrill. So I knew I had to take the lead super early, and I had to make like good double switches, good aggression, good prediction, and I did it pretty well, and that's why I'm proud of those
Yeah,
games.
you're keeping your Charizard alive to swallow that secret sword from Keldeo, and
Yeah, that too. I remember during that Smogon 2 series, I faced Shoka in the second round. It was in quarterfinals, and in the black and white game, I had a team with literally no dragon resist, and he had the Hydreigon, and I just played once again perfect positioning to not give the Hydreigon any free turns, or at least not before I would take the lead. And when you have the lead, even if you have no dragon resist in this case, even if you lose to something, if you lose a Pokemon every time a Hydreigon come on the field, if you are ahead and you have some sort of offensive answer to Hydreigon, you can still win the game. And I was like pretty proud of myself for those games.
all right, moving on to the Tsung game. This was instantly regarded by everyone who saw it as one of the best games ever. And in interviews for years and years after then, anytime you ask, what are some of your favorite tournament games played by other players, then even like you guys who don't really touch OU ever, they would say, oh, of course, McMeghan versus Tsung in black and white. That was incredible. So we're going to play that one, and I'm going to let you talk about
Yeah,
it.
I'm
'Cause
I'm gonna
you
play
earned
too,
it for
so I
sure
can
with this
remember.
one. So start from the matchup and go from there.
Well, looking at the matchup, I think it was really hard to begin with because I have no real answer to Shamin. I have Sizor, but it's obvious that I have Sizor because it's obvious the Shamin is HP Ice from preview since he has a Magnezone alongside it. And I mean, Sizor doesn't have much like answers to deal with Magnezone. It's not faster or anything. So once it's trapped, the Shamin could run a train on my team because it's faster than everything and has super effective stab, right? And there was also the fact that Skarmory was kind of hard to break because it like checks Mamosine, it checks D-Knight, it checks Sizor. It can stand in Tyranitar's way. Even Breloom cannot switch into Skarmory, so I had to find a way to not give Skarmory any free turns because once it gets its spikes up and the game lasts, and I would just if the game was gonna be a long one. So yeah, let me rewatch. Yeah, I think I just found a way to abuse my way to break his team because when you look at his team, he can almost check everything pretty well, right? Like he has like I said, Skarmory for almost everything, Shamin for the others. But then there is Breloom, which it doesn't have a great. And I played in such a way that I would get Breloom ASAP on the field and start opening his team. And once the team is open, then I can find a way to win the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made some micro decision, which don't look that important when they happen, but they actually matter a lot over the course of the game. And I know that one of them was let me check. Which turn are you on right now, Kevin?
Yep, sorry.
Sorry. Which turn are you on right now?
I rewound to the beginning, but I can go anywhere.
Okay. So yeah, I was gonna say that I know that a micro decision that I took during the game, which ended up mattering a lot, in my opinion, was on turn 21 when I got Choice Band Dragonite on the field, and I immediately I could have used Outrage and kill something because the Skarmory was die, and
that was Outrage, by the way, not Outrage.
Yeah, sorry, it was Outrage. Yeah, I could have killed something.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go with the whole breaking down Skarmory on turn 16 by not letting it roost and letting it basically kill itself.
Oh yeah, there was that too. There was a two that could have been mentioned.
There was just so much about this game. I almost want to give it give it justice with his own video, because there's so much, like with the Sash Tar and the early game around the Shaman and
Yeah,
the
I would say
Slow
that.
King and the Breloom and everything. A focus when Tsung switched Slow King into the Focus Punch to avoid the Fight Gem, that was really great. Stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So anyway, you were saying turn 21?
Yeah. Well, like you say, the first big part of the game is opening the team with, and
With who?
I could do it with Breloom.
Yeah.
I opened the team with Breloom, and I managed to do it before he could get any kind of advantage through Skarmory with spikes and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So
Then, like you said, I didn't let the Skarmory heal by using potential roost.
mhm.
Then there is
So
the turn at 21 where I use Earthquake with Dragonite on the Tyranitar sack.
well, what I really liked beforehand was when you, instead of outraging the Slow King immediately with Dragonite, you go back to Mamoswine as he goes to Skarm, and now Skarm dies to rocks, meaning that you can freely use Earthquake and he can't roost off of it.
Yeah, now that you mention it, that's actually that's a good point. Yeah, and
So
I
turn
like my
21, you have
Earthquake.
Dragonite in, not getting burned by Scald, which should be banned. Not that I care. Anyway, turn 21.
Yeah, I'm glad about that Earthquake. Like, I'm pretty proud of that Earthquake because Outrage looks pretty free. Because like the Skarmory cannot come in since it's gonna die. It's gonna die to rocks, and everything else either die or get 2 KO'd, right? But
Why do you think he
if I
went to T-Tar over Skarm?
I think, I mean, I think he maybe expected the free Outrage. And if I kill the Tyranitar with Outrage, I'm locked on it, and he can revenge kill my Dragonite. And I think with Dragonite out of the picture, he would eventually win the game with. With a combination of Slowking, Magnezone, and not Slowking by itself, right? But I needed Dragonite, so that's why I decided to Earthquake instead. I decided, that's the kind of play I'm proud of. When I don't make the mid-ground that covers a bit of everything, but rather a more precise play. That is precise. That is a bit more prediction reliant, but it offers
more potential upside.
More potential upside, and I think that's a big that's the kind of play I like a lot when I see it from other players, and that I'm proud of when I do them myself.
Something I liked here was when he crit Slowking with power on the switch, and you switch back out and get it back in just so it can live that Seed Flare with Regenerator.
Yeah, my point, at this point, I knew I was gonna go HP Ice, and I know that I could tank the Seed Flare, the upcoming Seed Flare, and kill it back with Fire Blast if he decided to stay in. But then he crit on the switch, and now I was in Seed Flare range because of that seemingly an impactful crit.
So you were in what?
Seemingly, it looks like the crit doesn't really matter, right?
Right, but
just
it does.
HP Ice and Slowking.
But
it does because it puts me in Seed Flare range. So I decided to go back to Dragonite and go back to Slowking, and now I'm not in Seed Flare range, and I can kill it. And once the Shaman was out of the picture, I could win.
Yeah, man, Scald is such a stupid move.
Yeah, in this game I had no other option but to send Skarmory and to send Dragonite on the Scald. And if I got burned, I would have lost the game, but I had no choice. So yeah, that's a game.
No, this was an excellent game for sure. And I believe you have one more.
Yeah, there is a game against Triangles in SPS 6 semifinal. I think you have the replay open, right?
Yes, I will do that in a second once this black and white game finishes.
Okay.
Man, Tsung was really into Jay-Z back then.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, what I'm proud about the games against Tsung and the games against PDC in both black and white and XY, Aura, sorry, is that I think my matchup wasn't that great. It's not that it was bad because I could, but if I gave my opponent any
breathing room,
they would start getting an advantage that it would be way too hard to overcome.
So you really have to come swinging out of the gate.
Yeah, and I think I just played those games very precisely to get my threats in without them taking some prior damage, without giving my opponent the free opportunity to get their rocks up or the spikes up, etc. And and some micro decision like the Earthquake with Dragonite or the the way I played with Ridiculous and Tyranitar in Black and White against PDC.
Yeah, the
And
devil
considering,
really is in the
yeah,
details in really
yeah,
close
right.
games like these. Every little thing, like this is why part of the learning process is examining everything you could have done better. Like
Yeah,
you can
and
justify things to yourself all you want, but if you say,
mhm.
"Oh, I could have earthquaked there, and I maybe could have, you know,
Yeah, because when you
done
see
better."
how close the games ended up being, like the Black and White game against Tessong literally ends with my Dragonite at one more turn and I literally die to sand.
Yeah, 2.4% according to the replay.
See? So yeah, that just shows how like sometimes how precise you have to be from the beginning of the battle. Because one or two turns where you just try to do some mid ground or you are not very precise and you end up giving up way too much, like that you don't expect at the moment, but at the end of the game it just matters
So
so
now
much.
we're playing the advanced game against triangles.
Yeah, this game is a bit different in the sense that I'm pretty behind because of some turns. Like I mean, people are gonna see as you play the replay. But yeah, I end up being behind, and with not so great of a position and matchup at the end.
Oh, we'll get
But
there.
then,
Maybe I should skip through a little because it is a longer
yeah,
game.
yeah, it's not that short.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you like when the big plays come out.
Yeah.
It's on turn. It's on turn 41 when I get my 2% Tyranitar on.
Well, I guess another big one is when you blow up the Regice because now suddenly Starmie's scary.
Yeah. I mean, I was a bit behind, but I knew what I was. Like I was letting it on thing, you know. I did play with a goal in mind, and it was sweeping with Stormy eventually. So that's why I boomed my Gengar pretty early on the Regice.
All right, so you said turn 41?
Yeah.
Wow, I remember what happens in this game, and it's amazing to me that it happened in the first place because Tyranitar just took such a big hit from his own Tyranitar.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say that, like, which turn are you on right now?
37, so I'm skipping ahead.
Okay. I'm going back a little bit too then.
Yeah, so turn 41, Tyranitar gets in on Zapdos's rest. This is pre-rest talk.
So yeah.
RIP. So yeah, take it away.
And there is a situation where the Zapdos is pretty much the only good answer to my Stormy at the moment. So he has to keep it alive for Stormy. But my whole team is weakened, and he has 3 spikes on the field. And the only way I'm gonna win is that I have to weaken his Pokemons, and I just keep having I have my back against the wall there, because if he decides to Sleep Talk with Zapdos and pulls Toxic or T-Ball on Tyranitar, I just lose on the spot.
Plus, if you roar, then you're roaring in the Swampert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he stays in and burn, like even if he doesn't, if he rest, he burns a Sleep Talk, and I'm gonna roll Swampert or Tyranitar, which is bad for. Like both are bad for me. But I just like keep making the ballsy play, and I keep roaring, and I just keep like getting damage on the Swampert thanks to the spikes. And suddenly I'm in a position where the Swampert is gonna die from like the Tyranitars, and I get revenge. But now like all those plays paid off. Even like I don't know if you're at the point yet where my Swampert is gonna weaken the Zapdos as it dies from Toxic.
Not
Which means
yet. Tyranitar just finished killing the Swampert.
Okay, yeah. And after I kill the Swampert and my Tyranitar, my Swampert, sorry, is gonna kill the Zapdos thanks to Toxic putting it in a torrent range. So the Zapdos cannot rest talk, cannot get a rest up. And at this point, my Stormy just wins the game. But it was like maybe it doesn't look like that much when you just watch the replay like
Yeah,
this.
I
But
was
in
gonna
this
say like
position,
there are some people who are like, well, what was so big about
yeah,
that? Not
it's
much
not that
happened, and then
big.
you roared. But in that
But
game, it's like
yeah,
it's
in that
so
game,
much different.
in my position, it was actually like really bad until the play with Taro. Not to mention that the context of the game is us being down 0-3 in the semifinal, and it was SPL 6 where I was pretty much the lead. So if I lose, it's just such another big hit for everyone. Like the leader of the team just got destroyed too.
Yeah, that's the point where people start to give up. All right, so now that we've gone through your shining moments, then what are some other tournament games that inspired you? Replay is optional because we don't want to spend too much time on them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, I don't have replays for any of the, and yeah, like let's try to talk about a bit of everything and not lose too much track.
Sure.
Right. So the first game that like some old people will remember as soon as I mention it is Blue against Rura in a Super Bowl World Cup 2011, I think.
That was a
You
classic.
probably
Yes.
That's a classic.
Please explain it. Yeah.
Okay, one sec. Because I explained it in French somewhere, so I can like roughly translate it in English, right? But this game has literally one of my favorite aspects of Pokemon as a whole, and it's like deception or bluffing, if you prefer. When you play in such a way that you manipulate your opponent's like thinking patterns, or at least like you make him do some assumptions based on your own decisions, but it's just a way to manipulate him to act in certain way, which you're gonna punish and take the game from there. And let me read again what I wrote about this game. Okay, one sec. Okay. So at some point in the game, Blue has a Mienshao, which is the biggest threat to Rura's team, right? And I know that Rura has a Celebi which U-turns on the Mienshao for Blue, and he goes into his own Salamence. And the Mienshao is like very earthy at this point. He's pretty much at full life. Well, he just took some U-turn damage, from the Celebi, but
Wait, he U-turned into Salamence?
Yeah, he U-turned it into Salamence first. And the Salamence was like, let me check again. Yeah, okay, yeah. What he does is he goes to Salamence first. And the reason the Salamence is almost gonna die, right? So Blue is gonna fake out with Mienshao first to weaken the Salamence and put it in kill range. And he goes to his Tyranitar on the fake out, which doesn't do anything, right? But what this turn accomplishes is it does get some chip damage on the Mienshao from life orb damage and sand damage. Okay?
Yeah.
After that turn, he goes back to Salamence, which dies from Stealth Rock, I believe, to give you an idea. So the Salamence dies, and the Mienshao took another round of sand. So the Mienshao is relatively earthy, not that much, but it's like
say it again.
The Mienshao at this point is still relatively earthy.
Healthy, yeah.
But, yeah, earthy, sorry. But it did take the U-turn from Celebi, the Life Orb recoil from the fake out, and the 2 turn of Scent, right? And then he goes back to his Rura goes back to his Tyranitar. And if you're in Blue's position, if someone sends Tyranitar against your Mienshao, you assume that it's Scarf Tyranitar, and it's gonna try to kill you with Scarf Superpower at this point. But instead, so like since Mienshao is such a threat for Rura's team, Blue switch out, and it reveals the Pursuit on the switch from the Tyranitar, which is a good prediction already. But it's even more amazing when you realize that Tyranitar was banded all along. It was slower than Mienshao like the whole time. But the way Rura played is that like by sending the Salamence first instead of Tyranitar, sorry. He made him think he was putting it into superpower range, right? For it to kill from Scarf Tyranitar. But the real plan was to put it in pursuit range from banded Tyranitar. And it still bluffed it out. Like it was such a good such like a cool sequence of turn because he faked the Scarf Terminator, and he even put the miniature range from sending Salamence first and getting some recoil damage from fake out.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it just like some turns from a given game that happened years ago, it teach me that even in like seemingly awful position, you may have some way to bluff to bluff what you have at your disposal, and you can win games out of nowhere.
Yeah, bluffing
Yeah.
is an underrated aspect of Pokemon. I don't think it's as embedded in the current kind of lexicon, I guess you could say. It's not something that people like, oh, I'm going to pretend like my Greninja has Gunk Shot or something.
Yeah, like for example, sometimes your opponent is gonna set up something and you literally lose on the spot, you know. But you have that Pokemon on your team that could be a check to whatever setup in front of you, and your opponent has to respect it, so it's gonna switch out, and you were literally gonna lose the game by bluffing that thing. Well, you are back in it, and you may even win later. And like even a game of myself I'm super proud of is that I remember it was in a random Smogon 2. It was like not that big of a game, but I'm still super proud of it this day because I played in such a way that I manipulated my opponent into thinking about some set that I had, where I had something completely different, and I won out of it. Like I remember I sent an Expert Belt Tyranitar in front of a Terrakion after it killed something to make it look like I was Scarf. But I wasn't Scarf, and I managed to kill 2 Pokemon like the 2 turn later.
That's kind of amazing.
And like you can get such big advantages out of those turns, and you win the game from there. And it just feels great. Because, it just feels good to manipulate your opponent like this.
Yeah, it does.
So yes, that's one of the games that stayed with me. Uro against Blue. Another game that stayed with me for like everything that happened within it is Philip 7086 against Earthworm for World Cup tiebreaker in 2011 once again.
Really?
If you remember what happened.
The Aaron game.
Yeah, that's the Aaron game. And it doesn't look like much, but it was a game everyone was so hyped up to watch because it was the World Cup final tiebreaker, right? That's such a big thing. It decided the whole tournament. And it was happening at 6 a.m. my time. And I stayed up all night with all the French people because we were also hyped up to watch this game. It was so important. And then the game starts, and everyone can look at the team preview, and there is a fucking Aaron. Fear Aaron in the final tiebreaker. It was... We all lost it. I remember it's so iconic for me.
Some people still can't believe that happened.
And it lost miserably too.
Yeah, it didn't. It did not win. This was not a feel good story about the underdog winning. Nope, it got destroyed.
It faced the Gliscor. It couldn't do anything. It lost miserably, but it's still amazing. And I think one of the games that left the biggest impact to me, for again another reason, because of everything that happened before the game, during the game, and after the game, is Tele against Blue for in the first OLT.
Yes.
I've never seen this amount of excitement from every Blue lover and Tele hater than there is this game. It was incredible. Like one of the most iconic games that ever happened.
That was certainly a series.
Yeah, the game in itself was interesting too because like Tele was definitely gonna lose the second game, and he played to his odds and he got exactly the luck he needed to win this game, and everyone went wild because everyone hated Tele. And everyone wanted Blue to win, and it was such a ruckus on the IRC channel, on the Smoke Show servers, on the Smogon threads. I've never seen like people care so much about the game.
It was amazing. That was a time for sure.
So yeah, like I know I'm not mentioning the best games competitively speaking, but they stayed with me for different. Yeah, they stayed with me. Like those are incredible memories. I think that like sums it up.
I like that. I like those answers. They're definitely not what you would expect.
Yeah.
All right.
I think most of the people who watch your video or like who came from to Smogon from the recent years definitely remember this game.
That was a series Chimpact probably recorded it, if
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
guess.
yeah. If people want to watch that again.
All right, so before we get on into the bigger questions, I came up with this because I noticed earlier you said you were using a lot of stall, and I've noticed that with a lot of players who are big now, they started out using a ton of stall, not just you, but like Ojama, and then they slowly transitioned into offense. So tell me a little about how you went from spamming maybe not hard stall all the time. I mean, sure, Chansey is one thing,
that,
but like there's also like semi-stall, like the Sand teams with Heatran, Skarmory, Gliscor, and how you slowly weaned yourself more into offensive territory.
Right. I could. I have like a very precise answer to that question in mind because I remember distinctly my different phases as a player and why I adopted some of those changes. So when I started playing again in Black and White, I was an offense player, right?
Yes.
I just played offense. I was back to Pokemon. I just wanted to play with the new toys. And there were a lot of offensive things going around right now, and I just enjoyed it a lot. So I just played offense. And at the time, all I cared about was like having a nice peak on the ladder. So, okay. And then I started joining tournaments, and I wanted to win. Like I wanted to win more. I wanted to have reliable ways to win. And at the time, I was starting to experiment with more defensive team. Then I started with stall, and I just realized that when you know the meta game, and you know how to answer most Pokemon's people are gonna throw at you, you wanna try stall because it's like comfortable. Well, not comfortable, but you feel safe with stall because you feel like you have answers to everything. Sometimes you can even auto-pilot. You just go to counter 1 to Pokemon 1. You counter 8, you recover. Over the course of the games, they just start losing PPs, or all the chip damage accumulate, and you just win, right?
Yes.
And it just felt safe, and you could win a lot. Like even nowadays, a lot of people who are high on the ladder, they stall because stall is a reliable playstyle, especially against worse people than you. But then when I was talking about that Snunch that lost to Snunch in OST. The more you play stall, the more you play tournaments, and the more you play one given playstyle, in this case stall, people start to prepare for it. And sometimes, well, the thing is, stall, while feeling safe, is probably the one playstyle that when given a bad matchup, it's awful. Like, it's hard to overcome a bad matchup with stall. With offense, there are often a lot of ways you can play like hyper aggressively. You can go for axe, because offense have offensive moves, and offensive moves mean a way to hacks.
And sometimes you can just overpower the other guy, even if he has counters.
You can overpower. You can just play like kind of weird or not conventional and play out of a bad matchup. But with stall, you don't have offensive options. You cannot apply pressure sometimes, and so if you face a bad matchup, you lose. And I remember I had that crushing defeat against Snudge in OST, and in my very first SPL game, I was already known as a stall player. That's most of what I was using at the time. And I just faced Badabink, who used a super anti-stall team, and I got destroyed. I couldn't do anything.
Am I correct in remembering he had Nasty Plot, Celebi Sand with Swords Dance, Fighting Gem, Heracross?
It did do it. It did have that, and the Celebi also had recover. Like, it was not correct Celebi, but it could heal all day, right? So it was impossible, and that's what I took from those losses. I was like, okay, stall is good to win against worse player maybe, but if you face something you cannot like that you have a bad matchup against, you don't stand a single chance to win with stall.
I noticed that transition. Some people are like, all right, I want to use hard stall because I want that safer win, eliminate variance, which is the name of the game. And then they're like, well, these super hardcore stall teams are slow, and one thing goes wrong and then they tumble. So maybe I'm going to go more into the semi-stall route. Maybe I'm going to have some offensive options. I'm going to have my Scarf Tyranitar and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then they slowly go more and more offensive offensive until they settle into that comfortable area of bulky offense where you have the backbone to switch into attacks, but you also have a lot of offensive pressure, and they exist in that kind of happy medium. And what's even more interesting about that is that a lot of those reliable teams that cover the metagame, they then become the victims of cheese.
Yeah,
but that's its own discussion we'll get to.
Yeah, but like to keep going with the
yes.
evolution of my playstyle, and it describes exactly what we're saying right now. So at some point you try stall and you start getting a lot of wins because you beat the worst player. But then you get people who counter stall, who prepare for it, and you get destroyed. So you wanna like go into a more balanced approach. And like you said, you start getting into more and more offensive approach, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I did too. I wanted to always use offense because with offense you feel like you can win any game, right? And that's true. Usually with offense you can win any game. And the thing is, my problem with hardcore offense is that it's like more difficult to beat worse players than you with offense. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is like offense is more like game plan reliant. You have to play like sometimes you don't have a lot of options. You have to go to a distinct Pokemon to beat what's in front of you because due to the frail nature of offensive teams. Mm-hmm. And like offense also have a harder time covering everything, which makes sense, right? The offense, sometimes they just don't properly check everything. So sometimes you're gonna face a worse player than you, but suddenly he didn't play the way you expected to, or he had that one thread you didn't cover perfectly with your offense, and you just lose. And it feels bad because you know you're kind of better than them in the sense that you understand the game better, but it didn't work out. And that's how I feel about offense. Mm-hmm. Or like sometimes offense also feel more luck prone because sometimes with offense you can't skip a beat. You are gonna miss that one move, or you're gonna get that side effect that is just gonna like kill your whole game plan, and you just lose on the spot. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, I was starting to use more offense, but then I realized, okay, I think I'm good at this game, and I win a lot because I have a better understanding of how to play, to get the win. And I think I can shine with like a bit smaller. No, not smaller. Sorry, slower paced teams. Mm-hmm. Slower paced teams. Sorry, like balance or bulky offense, like you did, where you have a defensive backbone, so you can soft off check everything, and you can apply pressure at the same time. So since you are a better player, you know when to apply pressure, you know when to sit back a little bit, and all those little nuances can be used to your advantage when you have a bulky offense or balance, right? Rather than straight offense where you always have to go to offensive, or full stall when you always have to be on the defensive. And that's when a problem can happen, because you're going to be axed with a defensive team, or you're going to face that one bad matchup with offensive team. Mm-hmm. So I know it's a lot of concept at once, so I can be a bit confused, but I hope I made my point clear.
If you have any questions for McMeghan, I'll answer them in the comments.
Yeah. But was I clear to you at least?
Yes, I totally agree. The whole idea is that stall is safe, and you want to be able to beat the people clearly worse than you safely. So you prey on their lack of weakness, and with offense, then you leave more up in the air because you're not going to be able to cover all those threats that they have, and they might, even if you have the better matchup, just by sheer power, they might be able to overpower you. Going back to what you said about being stuck to one style, you might think, well, why don't you run offense all the time? And I'll give you an example of why you shouldn't, because McMeghan himself played Smurf in SPL 9 maybe, or 8. Sorry. Yeah. And Smurf is pretty much known for running nothing but offense. I'm not just talking like bulky offense, which is pretty hard to truly counter team, I guess. Mm-hmm. But like I'm talking like really, really offensive, frail, no such thing as defense EVs offense.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so McMeghan, I mean, this isn't even a counter team per se. Just an example of how you can bring a really good team, or just a good team, I guess, if you don't want to get into the superlatives. But you can just bring a good team in general and tweak it enough to where you have a superb matchup. As I
Yeah.
recall, this is Rain, which is already good against a guy who spams Weatherless Volcarona stuff. And then on top of that, Mamoswine for dragons and like
And I had
Scarf, a bunch
two
of Scarf water,
Scarfers.
Starmie, which you can't switch into, and it's fast and it's strong. And then like
Yeah.
Scarf water types, and it's just like, well, this guy's never going to beat this. Things like that.
Yeah, like you say, like even with Toll, you're not gonna beat a bad matchup because you cannot apply pressure. And even if with offense you feel like you can win any game, you're still, if you only use offense like you said, you're gonna face people who prepare for it with like double Scarfer or like a lot of fast Pokemon that can one shot you, a lot of priorities, or like Pokemon that are geared toward beating offense like Cresselia in Sun or Ditto in the current meta games. So yeah, you have to diversify yourself, and usually a lot of good people end up using a lot of bulky offense balance because it's just harder to truly counter style those teams, like all the variants of those teams, and more extreme playstyle like stall and full out offense can be countered easier, easily.
So, speaking of people going out of their way to prepare for things, then anyone who's familiar with the current tournament metagame knows that there are a certain number of people, you can't even call them a minority anymore, who they like rolling the dice, they like to gamble, they like to go all in on what they expect their opponent to do, and they're perfectly fine with having holes because they only have to win one game. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, especially given how you outlined how winning this classic, you didn't really engage in that and instead just played to your own strengths, which I happen to be a believer in. But it's difficult to be a believer in that all the time when some people will go to such extremes that you feel like, well, I can't use, even if it doesn't make sense, you get that paranoid feeling like, I can't use my own team. That's exactly what he's gunning for. Even if you think, well, there's no way the other guy can possibly do a good enough job counter teaming me, then because you know the metagame as well, you just get that paranoid feeling like, I better make something new. And you're like, what about this great team you've been using all the time? And it's like, nope, not going to happen. So, yeah.
Before giving my own thoughts matter, I'm just gonna say it's so funny. You can feel how passionate you are about this issue because you just spent 2 minutes giving me that question, and you managed to fit your own take on the matter in the question itself.
And I sounded really angry, so you know my opinion on it. Yeah. Well, I guess I also stated how I feel about it, but
yeah,
yes.
I mean, it's it's a good question. It's a good. It's certainly an important topic of discussion because it implies a lot of things about competitive mentality. And I know it's something we've been talking about in private a lot recently. And I agree with you, especially nowadays. I know in the past I used to sometimes go for cheesier approach because I wanted that safe auto win matchup. But yeah, I agree that honestly your focus, if you want to truly get better at the game, is to try to be better than the opponent, not by having an autopilot matchup that you would get by counter teaming him or counter styling him, but rather
that was counter teaming and counter styling.
Counter rather than counter. You should try to focus on better understanding the tier you're playing, the team you made, how to improve as a player, how to better apply pressure, how to better make game plans, how to better play certain situation in a given tier.
Right, not to step on your toes and make this all about me, even though it totally is. Then when I was coming up and I was, reading the Smog articles where the great players of Smogon gave their views on the game and like what skill is, which we will get into, then one of my heroes, Goki, he said, skill to me is not riding out an easy team matchup or using someone else's team to win. And if you use someone else's team and you get a good matchup, then, what did you really do? I mean, I'll get into the modern day version of that in a second, but he said which is something I have always valued, the measure of skill, not only is it not measured in best of ones, it's measured over a period of time. But
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
also what's impressive isn't riding out a good matchup. It's instead it's winning even though your matchup is not that great. Like look at the game McMeghan had versus Tsung. That was not really a good matchup by any means. Matter of fact, further analyzing it, it was pretty terrible. So, I mean, he had a bold Slowking against a team with Mamoswine and Dragonite and Scizor alongside a Skarmory. It was downright horrendous if you think about it. I mean, Breland was a threat and yada yada, but you get the idea. So that's more impressive. Winning even bad matchups. That's where the real playing skill comes in. And making your own teams. Now, you don't have to religiously only use your own teams. Matter of fact, I would even advise against that. You got to mix it up. But when you're a player who only relies on others' teams, then it's kind of like, well, how much of this are you really doing? And I'll conclude this and let you get back into your thing by, by
No, don't worry.
mentioning how it's viewed in the modern day. Modern day, if you get a good matchup, it's because you worked hard for it. And it's something I have trouble subscribing to because so much of so-called prep is based in guesswork. I mean, how much of an exact science can you really make out of, well, this guy already used this team, so he won't use it again, or this style, or this Pokemon, or this set, or this core, or whatever? How much of an exact science can you make out of that? And then you go the other way. Well, he hasn't used Stall yet, so I don't think he's going to now, and then he brings Stall, and you look like a jackass.
There's so
Any
many
of
games
these
I
vice
admire.
versa options, and you just turn it into a gambling fest. And the crazy thing is, most of the time, you don't need to. If you go in there with that neutral-ish at worst matchup, and you are a good player, then you should be fine. But it feels like, especially with the greater emphasis placed by the community on these best of one wins, then people want that best of one to cement their place as the greatest player of all time, because that's how it works. So they're willing to shoot for those matchup wins. They're willing to forget half the metagame exists. It's easy to make a great team if you pretend half the top 10 threats don't exist. I mean, I would love it if suddenly I didn't have to prepare for Mixments in advance or Keldeo in black and white and stuff like that. So I think that's everything I should probably say. So please go ahead.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I know you had a lot to say about the matter, and I mean, it's something worth talking about because it defines how how do you improve as a player. Are you gonna be someone who just try to ride auto wins matchup every game, or you're gonna try to improve your general process and understanding of the game, which is gonna make you able to win every game too, but like without having to prep every time and just because like you said, prepping is putting sometimes all eggs into one basket. Yeah. And one good example is when you said the example of people going like, yeah, this guy never used stall, so I'm not gonna take it into account. And then you face stall and you didn't prep for it, and you literally cannot do a single thing about the matchup and you just lose terribly.
It doesn't have any basis. It's purely guesswork. And that's the sort of thing you should be eliminating. And it also goes into the vein of counter teaming and stuff like that. And it goes to where making a team almost makes you feel like a sucker because you can only use it a couple times before it's in your replays and people are going to scout it and know everything. And I don't know how much of this public replays has to do with the elimination of, but it feels like more and more making a team that's consistent against the metagame is just stupid because you're not going to be using the team consistently. You can't reuse it at all. I mean, in like a live Smogon Tour kind of environment, maybe not. But like in team tournaments, you have to constantly be reinventing the wheel, reinventing yourself, reinventing the metagame if you can. And it's just exhausting and untenable. It's unsustainable. And it feels like making a good team that covers the metagame is almost foolish because you can just pick and choose what you're not going to face and get a better matchup. I discussed this with ABR, of course, because that's one of his areas of expertise. But now I'd like your opinion on the matter, specifically because ABR used to be hardcore on that. Nowadays, not so much. And I guess you said yourself you used to go for those kinds of things if you could get them. But I think both of you, as you got better in the game, you were like, well, why do I need to cheese this guy if I'm just able to play better than him? Get me the neutral matchup and I'll be fine. And I guess a lot of it also has to do with making your own teams. And I'll let you take over now.
I mean, no. What you said exactly describes like how I viewed the whole subject, because in the past, with big best of one game measuring, You just want to win that one game, and sometimes you're gonna be tempted by playing some kind of cheese because, well, if my cheese works, it's gonna work perfectly. It's gonna like play effortlessly, and I cannot lose this matchup at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna have experiences where, I mean, your guessing didn't quite work, and you face that one matchup you didn't prep for, and you get destroyed, even though you know you know how good you are, but you went for it, and then you lose to someone who you think is worse than you, but you know you didn't prep for what he brought.
Yeah. How many times have you heard this sentence? Why didn't I just bring the other team? It would have destroyed him.
Yeah, I mean, every tournament it happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, at some point I took a step back at how I was preparing my game and viewing the game in general. And I was like, okay, I think I'm good now. I proved it enough. I know I am. I mean, I try to be better than everyone. That's like what drives our competitive spirit. And if I think I'm better than this guy, I can just bring a good team that is good against the whole meta game, and I'm gonna play better and I'm gonna win. I'm gonna be rewarded for playing better, not for going for that 100% win out of cheese or out of that like preparation matchup thingy that we've talked about. That can totally flat out of his face, and then even if you're better at the game, you just lose because you didn't get the matchup you were hoping for, right? So that's what led me to stop trying to cheese people even when I could, and to stop like preparing all the time and just like optimize myself with good team that are good against everything.
So give me an example of how this translated, say, in the finals of the Classic.
Well, a good example is like, let me think about it. In GSC, for starters, for example, I was contemplating some teams because even though I try to stay up cheese, I have still those tendencies in myself, you know?
You have what tendencies?
I still have that tendency of like, I have a really good feeling that he's gonna bring that one play style, and if I use that one team, I'm gonna completely destroy him, and he won't be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the forbidden fruit of Pokemon. It looks so tempting.
Exactly. It's tempting. That's the right word. But at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I know how to play GSC. I'm just gonna use something I'm comfortable with, that I have like played with it, that I've played with. I know how to play like most scenarios against most team tiles, and that's what led me to the team choice that I made in GSC. I used a team with like, it wasn't too defensive. It had some offensive pressure from a Boom Cloister, Boom Golem, and a Raw Raikou with spikes, and even a double L Snorlax. And I ended up winning the game pretty comfortably. And you know, I mean, maybe it would have worked, but I know I was considering a full stall team with Misdreavus and a Fortress. And the idea is that, okay, if I get a good matchup with those two monies, but I know from experience that I tried...
Sorry, you cut out. If you get a good matchup with those two?
Yeah, if I get a good matchup with those two, I'm going to win like pretty easily. That's what I was thinking. But then I remembered those times in the past where I had the same thinking pattern. And I'm just like, I use Pokemons like Fortress and Jessie so rarely that I am not like...
Was that Rawly?
I don't use them often.
Rarely. Rarely, sorry.
Yeah, rarely, sorry. Okay. And I know that I don't know how to properly play them. And that's why I decided to drift off that team choice, because I'm not going to be used to that kind of team. It's not my area of expertise. It's not what I'm comfortable with. So I decided to stay off of it, and I'm glad I did.
So I guess
I knew how to play my stuff.
The base of it is just focusing on improving yourself rather than trying to shoot for these little cheat codes, I guess.
Focus on improvement. Find like what you're good at. Because like some people are just gonna be better at controlled playstyle. Some people are gonna be better at pulling off offense. You try to be a complete player, but yeah, everyone has their strengths,
their preferences.
Yeah.
And no matter what anyone says, you are not the best player in history for winning one game, no matter how dominating it is. Even if you 6-0'd that guy by making a quintuple switch just to get up a single layer of spikes that was then the game winner, I know I sound like a grumpy old man, but you got to pay your dues. And no matter how, I mean, everyone's going to say, wow, that was a really impressive game. But yeah, so the idea is consistency. And by improving yourself, you're not going to be going, well, all right, here's my round 2 opponent of Smogon Tour. Time to learn everything about him. So on Wednesdays, he goes to sleep at 11 p.m. So that means he's going to use, Agron stall or something. So, yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it played in some of my team decisions for Classic because when I was trying to pick on a team, at the end of the day, I often went with the decision that I'm just gonna use something that I'm comfortable with, that I tested a lot, that I know how to play in and out in every situation, and it worked out. It definitely worked out. I didn't have a single matchup where I couldn't I just got destroyed because I misplayed or because I didn't know how to play around something.
Mm-hmm. So it was really you. It wasn't the team. I mean, you do have to find a balance because some people are going to shoot for those ridiculous matchups. So you have to be careful. But at the same time, it's really tough to find that balance of I have to mix it up and I have to be comfortable with what I'm using. As I recall, you used a 2013 Rain offense team twice. Yeah,
but I made some adjustments to.
I mean, yeah, but you get the idea. There was a Scizor, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you're the only person to have success with Scizor in black and white in the last 4 years, going back to that Tsung game.
Yeah. I mean, there's also M Dragon who always outdated team in black and white, but somehow still make it far in black and white cup.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. You maybe I don't know how long we've been talking. Maybe you want to go to a.
Yes, we will.
Unless you don't mind posting a 3 hours video.
Dude, I don't give a poop. So
if you don't mind, that's fine because I'm enjoying this discussion quite a lot. So
don't worry. No, I'm like the Michael Gira / Swans of music. I don't care how long it is, as long as it's good all the way through.
Perfect, Dan. Perfect.
That's what she said. Anyway, moving on. I'm really mature, I swear. So I guess we can transition nicely into what skills you value in Pokemon. I liked how you said earlier, what the hell was it? Positioning. Because if you think about, you asked the layperson, how do you win in competitive Pokemon? They're like, oh, well, you have to predict really well. And it's like, yes, but not really, because the way I always try to look at it is you want to make the moves that even the best player you can name could not do anything about. Even God can't switch twice in one turn. So you want to go for that kind of thing. And positioning is a big part of that. You want that, all right, well, if he locks himself into Earthquake, then my DD Salamence sets up and he just wins the game from there. You want that kind of scenario. And I really appreciated that you phrased it as positioning, because that doesn't have to be the end game sweep. It can be throughout the game. I'm going to, the great example with you being weak to PDC's Volcarona and saying, I'm going to place myself in a spot where no matter what he does, he cannot set up safely with that Volcarona. Mm-hmm. So that kind of thing. Yeah. Because most of the time, I just think of it as, seeing the bigger picture. But I think positioning will help a lot of people really see it. Instead of, think about the game at hand and what you need to do. But positioning is a more specific subset of that.
Yeah.
So
it's a question I like a lot, because I think there are a lot of Pokemon has a lot of different aspects to the game that you can try to focus on and get better at, and it really amounts to make you a better player. You just get more consistent. You win a lot more when you add all those little things to your game. And I mean, I'm gonna mention some that I like a lot in Pokemon. So since
sorry, you cut out there. Go back a sec.
Yeah. Since we've already been talking a bit about positioning, I'm gonna keep going about that.
Yes.
I think it's a great skill. I'm gonna give one example of positioning that I think is quite clear to give you an idea of what I think is good positioning. And sometimes you're gonna face a like your opponent is gonna have a Pokemon that is gonna be that is gonna die when it's gonna switch to Stealth Rock, and they might have a threat in the back that is gonna set up that if it's set up, if it finds an opportunity to set up, it's gonna beat you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that if they sack, like you have something on the field, let's say, if they sack their Pokemon that is gonna die to Stealth Rock and get the Volcarona safely on the switch, on the sack, they can set up on your Reuniclus and then win.
Mm-hmm.
And a good example of positioning is seeing this play, and you switch on the sack to something that is not gonna let Volcarona.
Not gonna let Volcarona set up. Sorry, you cut out. Yeah.
Yeah, that is not gonna let the Volcarona set up after the sack. And I think that's a good example of positioning. You never give the opportunity to your opponent to make progress until
the way
you win
that
the
he
game.
Needs to. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess this also has a lot to do with identifying your important Pokemon. Like some people will preserve their Skarmory at all costs, even just because they think they need spikes, when in some matchups you're not really going to need to use those spikes. Or some people, I'm definitely guilty of this, will go for Stealth Rock just because it's so ingrained in our heads you need rocks.
Yeah.
And when sometimes it's not the best move. I see this most often the case in Oris, but it can be any game. It's just a matter of really analyzing what you need to do and going off of that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like there are a lot of things at play when it comes to positioning, because like you have to know your own team, you know how to win the game with your own team, like you have to have a clear idea in mind, you have to analyze the opponent team, you have to think about what they're gonna do to win against you, so you can prevent them from going that way. So you make some switches or you take some decisions that prevent them from making progress or just going for and it's a lot of little choices that add up to the course of a game, and it lets you may progress in your own game plan while denying your. And I think it's a skill that is not like that doesn't pop to the high, but it's really important.
It's not really going to blow people's minds the same way a double switch would or a big prediction, but. Yeah.
For example,
not to keep bringing it back to this subject, but the way you said, you have to know the ins and outs of your teams. It just made me think again of how much of a shame it is that these days you don't really. I mean, in old gens it's different. It also depends on who you're playing and the situation, but how it's tough to bring your favorite teams all the time when and those teams that you've played with so much, and you know every little intricacy because you're putting yourself at risk for doing so. Whereas it wasn't as much a thing in the past, but. Yeah, so these other skills you value.
Yeah, and another example of like positioning as a skill is mid grounds, if you've ever heard of that term. And it's like finding a play that is gonna cover like all the options that you think your opponent is considering, because sometimes they have one option in mind, and like to be more precise, they have multiple options. And maybe you can do something that is gonna cover everything they can do on a given turn. And by making all those mid grounds that never make you always give you a good position, keep making you keep. I'm not finding the right word. Sorry.
You keep.
But
your
advantage keep getting better. But basically, your advantage, your grip over the game. Keeps
solidifying,
getting better.
Yes.
Yeah, solidifying.
Yeah, and you keep putting pressure on them rather than just making that easy attack and letting them get back into the game. It's a safe way of really stepping on their throat.
Right. Exactly. I'm trying to think of a good example, but right now I don't have one in mind.
Here's one. So this is a super easy one because it's super riskless. Let's say Doug Trio just killed something in advance, and you send out Zapdos, and you know they're going to go to Blissey, so you just, or a better example, you send out Salamence, and then you double switch to Zapdos knowing they're going to go to a water type. And even if they stay in an Earthquake, predicting you to switch, then you went to Zapdos, so big deal.
Yeah.
That's the idea, at least. There are a lot of examples like that. Like if you have It's really nice against choiced Pokemon, especially like when you have, let's say, Heatran versus Kartana in Sun and Moon, and Kartana is it's probably choiced, and it's either gonna Sacred Sword you or it's going to switch. So you would go to something like Tornadus that covers both the Tapu Fini switch or the
exactly.
thing, rather than staying in, because you might kill Kartana, but you could have a better position overall and risk a lot less. It's the risk reward thing is a big thing to think about, because if they've also got a Scizor, well, why are you risking Heatran? And they might just go for it, saying, I'll let my cart go down if it means bringing Heatran down to 10%. So things like that.
Yeah, I think that's it's about it for positioning.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to think of examples of on the spot. I always have that Dugtrio one in mind, because it's after an EQ kill. If you have 2 flyers, you can do that kind of thing super easily, and it illustrates the point, so it starts to make sense elsewhere. Yeah.
Honestly, if you wanna have if whoever is listening to this interview wanna dive into that old positioning thing, I recommend you to watch most of Brofist replay from his World Cup game, especially the one that he won. I think he's one of the best player at this whole thing, this whole mid-ground thing.
Yeah, that's
try to put yourself in his shoes and try to think about why he did that one the move that he did, and you will realize that he often covers everything that the opponent could have done on this given turn,
or is at least likely to do, because you can't always do physically. I mean, technically, he could switch your Ferrothorn, and he could switch his Ferrothorn into your Heatran, but he's not going to. So things of that nature. I think Brofist is one of the best players to study from that, because studying great players is a great way to, and understanding why they're doing what they're doing. Instead of going, wow, I can't believe he made that prediction. That was amazing. Understanding why he made that prediction, why it was necessary, that kind of thing. I think Brofist is textbook for that kind of thing. Possibly the best example you could have thought of.
So another skill I want to mention.
Sorry, just one more thing.
No, keep going.
Brofist using this kind of tactic is why he's so consistent. Because in order to really counter this kind of style, you're going to have to start switching Ferrothorn into Heatran. And crazy stuff like that, because it's not moved. It's like you can think, oh, I know how Brofist plays. I'm going to counter the hell out of him. And then you're like, the game comes, it's like, well, to do that, I would have to switch Ferrothorn into Heatran here. I don't know how comfortable I am doing that. So that's the kind of win-win scenario you're putting yourself in, and that's why he's so consistent and wins games at the highest level. So.
Exactly. That's why it's a skill, and that's why I value it a lot, and you too. So another one I'm gonna mention. I know not a lot of people. People have very different takes on the matter, but I think it's creativity. Some people hate it because they feel like, it's just a special snowflake thing. You're just trying to.
I've never heard of that.
I mean, you can think. I think it's reasonable to think that people who try too hard to be creative just sabotage themselves.
Right. I was going to say, when you say creative, do you mean coming up with dumb gimmicks to use in every game, or creative with a purpose?
That's the thing, because there is creativity, like you said, gimmick with a dumb gimmick that is maybe gonna win 1 game out of 3, and it's gonna be fun. But I think a skill is finding is being creative. Finding that one thing that is gonna work in a given metagame, and it's gonna give you a really solid advantage. But it's gonna work against everything.
A good metric is it good once it stops being a surprise?
Yeah, that's a good.
Of course, then you get into the whole, well, in a best of 1, you just need to surprise him once, and that's a whole different ball game. But generally, if it's truly creative and good, it will catch on in the metagame. Think of every metagame innovation you've seen that was like, wow, that's amazing, and then it probably became part of the metagame because it was genuinely good. So
sometimes it can just be using a Pokemon that is underrated, but it's just gonna be a great pick in the given metagame too. I think that's being creative, because instead of just following the metagame, you try to think a bit outside of the box, and that's where you find something that is gonna give you great advantage. That's why even with all the team stealing and team hoarding going around, when you look at the top dogs of the game, most of them are team builders because they spend their time trying to find that one thing that is like trying to find those things that are gonna work and gonna beat what is the given standards.
No, and then someone else takes those teams and succeeds with them, and you're like,
problem.
What's the point of living? But
and another like way to be creative is like we talked about earlier with Ruber and his utilization of Tyranitar is being creative in your own play, like using deception to manipulate your opponent. I think is a creative way to play the game, and it's a skill.
I think I'm really glad you mentioned that because there are so many plays that, like, once you start thinking outside of these linear, I can't leave this in on this because he might kill me, and you start thinking about, would that be so bad if that happened? And I'll give you an example. I was playing linear in some tournament, and I had a Calm Mind Pass Celebi with Giga Drain, and it was out against his Swampert, and he just stayed in and used Roar, and I was like, come on, man, why are you doing that? Upon further inspection, I still don't think it was a great move at all, but it had basis, and it was a creative way of playing that I would have never expected him to do. I'm not saying always leave your Swampert on Celebi, but basically use the context of the game to come to a decision. The reason was he didn't really need his Swampert against my special offense team. I mean, I still think it was better to keep it around because if it forces my Metagross to explode or something, then fine, that's great. Or it can safely get in one of his other Pokemon against my Tyranitar off an HP Grass, things like that. But even if he lost it, it wasn't so bad, and he could really disrupt my game plan by doing that, by staying in more, because it would never have been expected. And I think the more safer, less extreme method is switching Pokemon, not going to your obvious counter. I guess this is more easy in team preview gens, but not going to your super obvious counter right away, because what they're planning on doing is, all right, he's going to go to his super obvious counter and I'm going to take advantage of that, and he has to do it. And then once you step out of that, no, I don't have to do it, then that creative way of looking at things makes things really hard for your opponent, because they start thinking, what's this guy up to? I can't get a read on how he's playing.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad you brought that up.
That goes back to mid ground when you think about it, because when they expect you, you can find a mid ground in the Pokemon that is gonna check. You can like go to the Pokemon that is not the hard counter, but it's still gonna check what they have in front, but it's also gonna cover the double swing. And this position, that's a good mid ground.
You cut out a little, but
sorry.
The gist was,
I think
it's basically mid grounds, but on a more risky level, I guess you would say.
Yeah, like it's just not playing too obvious. Finding mid grounds to not be too obvious in your own and getting double switch down. Another skill for those of you who listened to Joey's interview, which I've done recently, and he talked about it a lot, and I think it's a really big thing, is general awareness. Being aware of everything in the game, every little details, and thinking about all of them and finding all the good paths to follow to win the game. I think it's a good skill to have. Once again, John is a good
No, he's amazing. I think the example I gave of John was him noticing that the Weavile was Scarf because its pressure went before Lando's Intimidate. And then the other day I was checking a comment I got on an old video. It was Ojama versus Elodin. And something I missed during the rapid fire live narration was I think one of the Volcarona or Hydreigon switched out first. And that's how they knew which was faster for later in the game. And stuff like that. It's so much detail, but it's so crucial. If you're in the right headspace, it shouldn't be a problem. I know it sounds overwhelming. Like, I have to think about the game and then pick up on all these little things like leftovers and sand, and that sounds way too much. But it's really not once you've gotten used to it.
Dude,
that's why when people say, how do I get good fast? I'm like, you don't get good fast. You have to put in the time.
And it's funny because something Joey said is in interview, and I can like relate so much to it, is that when you feel at your peak as a player, like sometimes you are in a better like period, and sometimes sometimes you just play better, and sometimes you just play worse. And I think it like relates so much to awareness. When I'm at my peak. Sorry, I feel like I can see every little details. I feel like I notice everything in a game, and I can use all these details to to win or like play better.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm not in a good headspace, I miss out on a lot of little things like this. It's like my awareness isn't at its max, and that's why I'm not as consistent when in those periods.
It goes beyond even noticing mechanics like the sandstorm, and it goes to noticing things like, oh, well, he switched his. I'll give an example from one of my recent games that I was able to notice easily from my bird's eye view of post-game commentary. But it's like, he switched his Swampert out of Swampert. I mean, this isn't the most outlandish thing to think of during a game, but I think it's an example of it. I switched my Swampert out of Swampert, and or he did that, and that might mean that Swampert is the only thing he has for the Salamences and Aerodactyls and Tyrannotars and Metagrosses.
Perfect example.
Yeah,
perfect example. Yeah.
And if you're not in the right headspace and you're just kind of autopiloting through it, you're not even going to think about that. And then when it comes time to figure out his last Pokemon, you're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe he's a Metagross, and then it turns out to be something like Suicune or something. I don't know. That was a bad example because Suicune does cover those things, but it could be something that just gets totally destroyed, like Celebi, let's say.
No, that's the kind of thing that is tied to the whole awareness thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a skill that I'm like gonna mention, but I think like it doesn't deserve much explanation, is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon is a high variance game. Someone who can win a lot over a long period of time obviously shows that he understands the game better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. I'm always gonna like a lot over a long period of time over someone who is just on a streak. That's
sorry, could you say that again?
I'm always gonna rate or value someone who won a lot over a long period of time rather than someone who is just a hot streak. You're not gonna see me say, oh yeah, this guy is completely the GOAT because he just won two. Even if he won them like in a spectacular fashion. Consistency is the name of the game for me.
Mm-hmm. And I guess a big part of consistency is also knowing how to manage luck, which we might have wanted to mention during the stall versus offense segment because, I mean, it's different. But stall, when you take that one crit out of 40 attacks, then it's like, oh, I totally got BS'd. And then you start thinking, but did I really? If it's a 1 in 16 chance and he hit me 40 times. I mean, it's different if it not all 40 of them mattered and only like 2 of them did. But things like that, not being able to come back. And I guess managing luck, going back to the Oris game against PDC, where you had 2 Focus Blast Pokemon, which is just like, yikes.
Yeah. That's something else.
Yeah. Managing luck is infuriating. Yeah. But necessary. Which is another reason why Scald is such a stupid move. God.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. All right.
And one last skill I'm gonna mention is, and I value a lot, is the optimization of established trends, if that makes sense. So basically, refining yourself as a player. You know what's good in a metagame. Is there viability rankings around? You can see what's good in a tier or given generation. You use those Pokemon a lot, and you optimize, how to play them. And you optimize the way you play your team. You know that in a given situation, even if you're against Salamence in ADV, you're not gonna send your Swampert because you need it for the Tyranitar in the back or some things like that. But yeah, I respect that a lot. And if I have to praise you for one thing, it's this. I know you don't try to beat around the bush. You use what's good and you get better with it. You fine tune your team. That's something I deeply respect, and I try to insert in my own game.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I guess the Swampert versus Mence thing is a great example because of the throwing your opponent off thing, because Zapdos isn't really a Salamence counter, especially if it's running Rock Slide. To a physical Rock Sliding Mence, then Zapdos is hardly what you think of when you say it's a check. But if your goal with Salamence is to smack down that Swampert and Metagross, then you're not going to be spamming Rock Slide, and that's perfect Zapdos entry. It doesn't care about HP Flying or Earthquake. You're not going to DD immediately because then you don't kill them and you get killed in return, and you've done nothing but a pretty bad trade. But when Zapdos comes in and is in that one-on-one with you, then it starts threatening you a lot more. And even if it doesn't threaten you, then you can go to your Metagross. Here's a perfect example. You've got, let's say, Celebi versus Salamence, and you've got your Pert and your Metagross. Now, you're going to go to your Zapdos against the Salamence, like we just discussed, because of the reasons. It's not going to Rock Slide there. It's going to Earthquake or HP Fly. It's not going to DD either. So you're going to scare it one-on-one. And then, to be really safe, you can go to Metagross, because if it stays in, it's probably Rock Sliding, and Metagross gets in without any trouble. Or, even better, they go to their soft Zapdos, their physically soft Zapdos check. So that could be Blissey, that could be Celebi, and Metagross, Snorlax, things like that. And Metagross has a good or Regice even, and Metagross has a good matchup against those. So you're really winning no matter what they're going to start doing. They have to start doing insane things like Earthquaking a healthy Zapdos with Salamence. And even then, you could have gone to Swampert, so they're not going to do it because, I have to guess that he might choose to go to Metagross there? No, that's ridiculous, because you could also just go Swampert and be safer that way. So it's kind of the winning no matter what you...
This guy is using the opportunity to give a whole lesson about how to play the Pokemon. But yeah, I mean, that's how to get better at the game in general.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to learn. Like when people ask, how do you get good at the game? That's all those things that you learn after you play or you analyze.
Yeah, from playing and analyzing why you lost, or from analyzing why good players win. Like the Brofist example of why he's so consistent. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go to something lighter, I guess. What are some of your favorite teams throughout your history? We can break it up into your teams and then other people's teams. You can go chronologically if it helps, but it can be any metagame. It could be Black and White RU. Matter of fact, I hope it is because I love that metagame. But
okay.
anything you want.
I'm gonna try to be concise. Concise. Okay, concise. Sorry, because otherwise this is gonna last another 4 hours.
yeah, I know.
So chronologically, if I start from RBY, well, I don't have a given team in RBY. In GSC, if you look at my replays, and from Classic Playoff, you can see it in my game against Kingler. There is a Quagsire team that I love using. Mm-hmm. It's pretty recent. I've only started using it 1 year ago, but since then, I use it almost all the time. In GSC Cup, I have used it every single round, and maybe sometimes during during those games. I think it's just super solid. I love using in GSC. Like I really like belly drum teams in GSC with a defensive backbone, and you try to set up the perfect field condition where you can afford a safe belly drum and you go on a tier with Snorlax or Quagsire in this case. So that's a team I like a lot. In ADV, there are a few teams that I like.
Sorry, could you list the 6 Pokemon?
Yeah, for sure. Do you want maybe a replay so you can skip turn to the ends and you can see the whole lineup?
Sure.
Yeah, 1 sec. You have this replay against Kingler where I used the team. There you go. Sending it on Discord. If you skip to the end, you can see the whole team. Mm-hmm. But it's a defensive backbone of T-Wave, Zapdos, Stormy, Miltank, and Tyranitar. Mm-hmm. The first 3 can spread some paralysis for Snorlax and Quagsire to abuse. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I like Miltank to remove the status, and Stormy to remove the spike so you can play safely. Well, not safely, but you are not on the back foot. Mm-hmm. In ADV, the few teams that I had in mind were the super standard CM Spam going back from the Dexay days, that I've used it a lot recently in some tournaments and on the ladder, and I think it's just a lot of fun to play around. It's offensive from the get-go, and sometimes it's hard to find a truly offensive team in ADV, but this one is straightforward and I just like it a lot.
If I remember correctly, it is Raikou,
Suicune, Jirachi, Celebi,
and then
you
Porygon
have
2
and Doug.
Wait, Porygon 2 and Doug?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot Dexter ran Doug.
Yeah,
I thought
he
had the weird one without Doug Trio.
I mean, he might have because it's Dexay.
Yeah.
But that's the version at least I like a lot, and I love Celebi in this team. But on passing around Calm Mind to the appropriate sweeper at a given time. You It's just all-out offense. I like teams with a straightforward and simple game plan. In this case, you overload the special walls until your CM sweeper.
And how are you going to overload the Blissey is the big question. That's the number one question on every CM spam user's mind.
I mean, I've played with this team enough that it of course depends on the Blissey set for starter. Are they T-Wave? Are they toxic? If they're T-Wave, you wanna abuse it. You wanna like set up with Celebi first, so you can button pass a CM, especially if you can slow pass with button pass. Then you can go. You can actually button pass CM to Ductrio. Like even if you pass one CM to Ductrio, it's sure to leave any Ice Beam, and then you take the Blissey.
I really like that tactic. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I used to use it on my Charizard team.
Another way to beat Blissey is like to go to your own P2 for Region 2, so you paralyze it with T-Wave. And if it's paralyzed, the Blissey has a hard time keeping up with Celebi into sub Raikou. So they have to switch out, and if they switch out, you keep piling up CM, and you like have the momentum for yourself. So and T-Wave is the most annoying variant. If they are toxic, usually Jirachi has a good times against it. And if they lack status, then Suicune can...
What's the Jirachi variant?
Oh, it's a Super Rachi. I know, although in those teams, sometimes I play Rich Rachi, but I like Super Rachi in general.
Yeah, no, it's fast, yeah.
And even like, if you take a Jirachi example, for example, if you take Jirachi's case against Toxic Blissey, even if you lose the Jirachi but put the Blissey in Ductrio range, it's all worth it in the end, because once you remove Blissey, your team is usually free to go. And against statusless Blissey, you have your Suicune with Roar. So I know like CM Blissey is supposedly dead in the current metagame, but you're gonna face it on the ladder if you play CM spam on the ladder.
And it's also good if you passed a Suicune and you face another Suicune. So
yeah. So yeah, there is this CM spam teams that I like. I mean, it's outdated by now, but I used to love running Modest Gengar Spikes.
The standard Spikes teams with Modest Gengar.
Yeah.
And Physical Roar Tyranitar. That was a big one.
Yeah. Just a lot of Spikes abuse back then. It always worked. Modest Gengar doing a lot of damage to everything. Suddenly, you have your Ice Punch doing close to 50 to Zapdos and Celebi. It's a whole different deal compared to bulky Gengar.
And I remember there were stories like CVB used to say his T-Bolts would 2-hit KO Metagross, which is just insane.
I mean, if you face mixed growth and with some spikes ups, it could.
Yeah.
And in ADV there was also the Steelix teams that I used in playoff against Kingler, although it lost there, and I used in ADV Cup final against Tamahome.
Yes, I wanted to mention that.
Super offensive team that feeds off booming on the right target, and then you have an advantage to CB Mans outspeeding almost everything and like usually having positive matchups.
Yeah, it's really ballsy, I guess. Snorlax and Steelix and no mag.
Yeah, it's not my best team because
it reminds me of you remember Earthworm's old team, the one like the original mag doll?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that minus the mag and more offense. Steelix and Metagross. It's awesome because Steelix really gives you that Zapdos cover while not losing out on your Metagross. And when you run offense with Magneton, then you usually don't have enough slots to fit both Steelix and Metagross. And sometimes when you boom your Metagross to blow up the Skarmory, then you don't have that steel typing for the physical threats. Yeah, and then Steelix comes in on that. So I really do enjoy the synergy of this team.
But yeah, it's fun. It's not the best, but it's one of my favorite because it's fun to use.
And what about your old offensive Starmie team?
I mean, this team was fun, but it doesn't have a special space. It doesn't hold a special spot for me, to be fair.
Really? It was made into an RMT and everything.
Yeah, I know. I really liked it back then. You know,
that's fair.
Didn't stay with me that much. And a team that I used a lot during the Smogon Truths when ADV was still in was double trap Snorlax with Melodic Celebi
Oh,
core
I remember Zapdos
and
too, right?
and Zapdos in the back. It was so fun to play. In this time period, I loved using up pass Celebi into trappers. Because most of Celebi's answers were trappable, and then you subpass into them, and it opened the way for Snorlax to sweep. It was cool to play.
I remember you spamming the hell out of those. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a time period where especially with trappers. Then in Black and White, there is my first RMT, the Toxic Rock Rain offense. That team won every game when I started.
I remember very well. Yeah.
Everyone was weak to Toxic Rock. It was a perfect meta. I have fond
Do you
memories
remember?
with this
Do you
team.
remember it very well?
Hmm?
Do you remember it well?
Oh yeah. I still have every set. Specs, Politoed, Sword Dance, Specs, Politoed as was. Because at the time it could run into everything not named.
Jellison.
Then you have Sword Dance, Toxic Rock.
With Ice Punch for Gliscor, which is everywhere.
Yeah, and Max Speed too. And you have Sub Nasty Plot Thunderous, the regular one, not Therian, since it was
I just
allowed.
tried to type Thunderous in and it gave me Therian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Was it the bulky one that lived Ferrothorn stabs?
No. It was just Max Speed attack. But I liked Prankster Sub. It was.
Yeah,
you could make some fun plays.
Scarfer moves.
Yeah. Then I had the Volton Core of Scizor. Yeah, Choice Band, Scizor, and Scarf Rotom to safely bring whatever you wanted on the. Like trap your opponent in the vortex, like we used to say, and Ferrothorn as the usual.
Right. Yeah. And Scizor and Rotom revenge everything. So.
Yeah, it just Toxic Rock just beat everyone back then. It was crazy.
Yeah, Rainstall was just dead in the water until M Dragon started using Quagsire, but you know.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of Rain struggled with Toxic Rock, and like you had Scizor and Rotom with Azar just weakening everything. Then let me check. I'm just like not trying to mention too much because otherwise, wait.
Hey, this is as we say, your party. Go crazy. Do not hold back.
Before the Toxic Rock Rain, I loved using a pure like water spam team on the Black and White one letter, which had Scarf Rotom, Choice Band Azumarill, and Choice Specs Politoed. I really liked the simple game plan of try to predict on water resist. Once they're weakened or they're dead, just feel free to spam Hydro Pump and Water Roll.
Yeah, you were very well known for. I remember Bluewind once referred to you as he hugs his Politoed at night. You really loved Rain.
It's all I used when I started playing. I was not. I love this playstyle. It was just, even nowadays. Like the next team I'm gonna mention, which I affectionately call the boys. Is the team from 2013 that I used in classic playoff against Lavos and Elodin. It's just like a Rain offense that aimed to abuse Specs Caldeo, and then like it has a Choice Band Scizor to trap the Caldeo target. And then it just like a few Rain abusers.
I remember this team very well. Yeah.
And it started as a like fun Rain offense that had literally 5 choice Pokemon and E-Belt Thunderous. And it was just fun to play with it on the ladder or Black and Suspects. And even nowadays, I still like to use it. I just change the set around. I just feel like the 6 Pokemon are good Pokemon in general. You know, they have good stats. They have good stabs. They have diverse move pools, so you never know exactly what you're gonna face.
What was Politoed, Scizor, Keldeo, Thunderous, Garchomp, and
Interaction?
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's in my replay from a Smogon Classic. And I just like changing the sets around to fit the metagame, to beat the current trends, or to abuse what's actually good. And it still works, you know, I just know how to use it, it's fun.
It's Scarf Politoed, right?
Yeah, it's Scarf Politoed, and usually I have double Scarfer with this team. Like against Lavos, I had Scarf Politoed and Scarf Terrakion.
Wait, no.
No, that was against Elodin. That was against Elodin.
Right.
Against
Lavos, you had Rock Gem Rack.
Yep, and I had Scarf. Let me check again
Garchomp?
real quick. Nope. I
Keldeo.
had Scarf Politoed, and it was just Scarf Politoed actually.
Oh.
This I had Choice Ben Garchomp.
Yeah, I remember
And
that game was masterful. I remember Blunder and I commented on it on his channel, and it was
yeah,
everything that needed to be done in such a what's the word? I guess volatile matchup. It was done.
yeah. I really like the it allowed me to run off with the momentum and weaken the Jirachi. So yeah, and then what else? I think a team that I liked a lot and everyone toyed with in Black and White were the Sun team, but from Black and White 1.
I was hoping you would mention that. Yeah, I remember. I have
So
memories of you using
you had the whole
Ninetales
package with Volcarona, Venusaur, and Balloon Duck Trio, and it was so offensive and fun, and the Reservoir were super interactive.
Wait, so Volcarona, Doug, Ninetales, Balloon Tran,
Venusaur each run.
and then
Uh,
like Donphan or something, or Fortress.
Yeah, Fortress it was in my case.
Yeah, I use a lot of Donphan, but some people would ditch like a Volcarona or Tran or something and bring in a Xatu or Espeon early in the days.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
your French buddy Grim70. He loved using actually no, I think he might have had an Espeon, but no spinner, and it was just offense. He used
He literally had no spinner, no magic bouncer one.
yeah, he had Volcarona and Thundurus on Sun without magic bounce or spin. Crazy.
Yeah, but
guy.
he was a very creative builder. I liked it a lot.
Yes.
Like for example, he didn't have spinner, but he had a lot of fast Pokemon with taunt to prevent Stealth Rock from going up.
Yeah, if you are interested, then you can go into the RMT archive in the Rate My Team forum of Smogan, and his team is called French Orgy with Beelzebub. I think. I don't know if that's the French way of saying Beelzebub, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great for you. Then yeah, I think that's it for Black and White. And then I wanna mention 3 teams from XY that I liked a lot.
I remember you were really into the late XY metagame.
Yeah. So one of the late XY
If you mention Cobalion,
team,
I'm gonna get really mad.
no, not this one. It's a team that I still use to this day in Orb actually, and it's like semi-style team featuring X Taunt Gengar. It's in my replay too. So it goes.
It the Slowbro one?
Yeah, it's Slowbro, Heatran, Ferrothorn, Rotom for the defensive core, which can get both hazards up.
Wait. So Slowbro, Heatran, Ferrothorn,
and Rotom.
Really? Rotom and
Yeah,
Slowbro?
and then, yeah.
Okay. And then
It's Kaftaralita to do the usual dirty work for those teams.
Do you have a Mega Slowbro now?
Yeah, I made it Mega since then. And then I have X-Gar, which can spin block, and also had to hold those chip damage with Will-O-Wisp, and abuse the Lava Plume from each one, or T-Wave from Slowbro, and tear things down with X boosted.
Okay, so quick note. I have to go for a couple minutes, but we are so not cutting off here. So what I'm going to need you to do is keep talking about your favorite teams. And then once you're done with that, if I'm not back, then I'm going to need you to go over your favorite players throughout history. And then by that point, I should be back. So it's all up to you now.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Enjoy.
So, the next team I'm going to mention is an old one, once again from the XY metagame. And it was a brookie offense team, which once again was abusing both Spikes and Stealth Rock, except he had a more offensive take on it, because the Spiker was Greninja, and I had Greninja, Mega Venusaur, Heatran. Heatran was getting the rocks up. Scarflandorus as the revenge kill of the team, which has a defensive purpose. Then I also had Latios for general utility, and Raikou. And I love that team because it had a solid defensive backbone, but was actually pretty offensive. And I know it's dumb, but I just think it was super aesthetic with all the corals. I think it was super colorful, and I just enjoyed that part a lot of the team. And it helped me getting some nice win in XY Small Controls. And then the last team from the XY meta that I liked a lot is for those of you who were around, it was a team from Yugo, also which had Charizard Y and Goodra. So the team was like Tyranitar, Excadrill, Goodra, Charizard Y, and I don't quite remember the last. Oh, Alomomola, and I don't really remember the last. I think it might have been Ferrothorn. And what I liked a lot about that team is that I remember when XY came out, there was some kind of hype around Goodra because it had a huge special defense, you know. But then as time went on, it turned out to be pretty bad. But then you go back that team featuring that, you know, that Pokemon that was like expecting to be good at the start of the generation that people use, but then it was bad. And that good team with it. And I like that fact a lot when, you know, when a new generation comes out, you often have you have like Pokemon that people like to use, but then the metagame makes some strides and some bans happen, and like this new toy just become bad and rusty, like good one in this case. But then someone finds a way to make it good again, and I don't know, it's something that I like. Another example is Alolan Marowak in Sun and Moon, for example. It was pretty good at the start of the metagame, and now it's just bad. But when I see people managing to find a way to still use Alolan Marowak in the current metagame, I just think it's cool, and it makes me like the teams a lot. So yeah, that's why I'm mentioning them right now. And to answer the next question that BKC left me with, which are who are your favorite players throughout history? Well, there are a few. I'm gonna just take a little bit of some water first. Sorry. But yeah, for those of you who know me, one of my favorite player, or at least the one that first left me a big impact, is Earthworm, because like it was not because he was necessarily successful, although that played a part, but he just was super consistent. And what I loved about Earthworm, and that I learned from watching him play and facing him, is that he would always carefully analyze the situation and always try to find a way to win his game, even when it was looking really bleak. He would try to find that one way to win the game, even if it meant like being super aggressive or sometimes making out of the box plays, and that you would not think about, just being creative with his plays, and he would bring it back. And an example that I have in mind right now that always stayed with me, but it just shows how creative he was with his plays. I remember we once played a DPP game, and in the beginning of the game, I tricked a choice scarf through a Cradily. And in DP, Cradily is just known to use a Curse, Rest, and like Seed Bomb, Earthquake. So basically, it's a defensive. And once it has a choice scarf, it's supposed to be crippled and not do anything. Everyone would consider it dead weight, right? But Earthworm found a way to beat me by locking the Cradily on Rest and letting me die from Sandstorm. I just remember, I thought I was gonna win the game because there was just a Scarf Cradily standing in my way, but it just locked itself on Rest, and my Kingdra, which was Choice Specs at the time, just died from sand damage, and it was just spamming Choice Scarf Rest, and it won. And I just thought, wow, such a creative way to win the game, and it stayed with me. Even nowadays, I still try to think that one way to win every game, even if it means like carefully reassessing the whole situation. Another, like someone else I'm gonna mention is Blue, who is now permaban, but Blue was a fantastic player. He was also someone who was very careful with his decision making. He was really good at switching gears too in a game. He knew when to play defensive and knew when to play aggressive, and that's why he was so consistent. Someone else I'm gonna mention is Ojama. Ojama is one of my favorite players because he always takes his time to build. He's known as a builder, and that's something I respect a lot. He always comes up with his own stuff. He analyzes every game to see what works and why it works, and then he tries to take advantages of all those qualities and make great teams. He also is very driven and very motivated. He puts the work in his place. He's not lazy, and it's something I learned from because those are not my qualities as a player. A lot of respect for Taesung too. He was very dominant in his prime. He won 2 Smogon Tours, made final of Classic, made semi-final of Grand Slam, I think. And I remember watching a lot of his replays, and he had everything. He knew how to bluff, he knew how to predict, he knew how to play creative teams or creative play styles, and he was good at making progress in his game without like just a solid player. CBB is someone also I respect a ton. I know it's funny that I mentioned CBB when BKC is gone. Those two don't go along very well. But CBB was probably the most aggressive player I had ever seen when he first popped up, when he first appeared on the scene, and he left a huge impact of me. He literally transformed me as a player. I always used to be more of a like game planning, careful guy, and when I saw CBB play with all those double switches, he was sometimes going to like being too much about it, but it showed me that I could play the game differently. I could be a lot on the neck of my opponents, and I could win more safely as a result. And yeah, it taught me a lot of things. Then I think Brofist is another amazing player. I already touched why. I already like explained a bit why earlier. He's just very good at positioning himself, very being aware of everything. A lot of his team choices are very respectable. He never uses he always uses solid teams and like make use of his better understanding of the game to win his matches. I like Kratos Mana, Dexe, and Ben Geolo. I'm gonna mention all of them in one go because I like them for their creativity. They always think of that one mon. Like when they make a team, they don't just go to the standard. They can use one underrated Pokemon because they fit the one niche they need for the team, and that's why I like a lot. What I like a lot about them. I also like Nintendi for the way he plays. If you watch Nintendi play, he's a savage, as you would like, if you like this term. He knows when to. Some earlier, BKC mentioned like going Ferrothorn on each one. Nintendi actually makes those moves in the game, and sometimes they work. He know when to pull the trigger on those kind of moves that shouldn't make sense, but they work. And when he does them, they give him such a good advantage. It's actually crazy. If you watch some of his game, you would think he's crazy, but it just works. And he has like, he's amazing for that regard. Someone that I also
Hey, I'm back now.
okay.
Who were we just talking about?
I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown of the players I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Earthworm
Of course.
because like he was super consistent, and I liked a lot how he would think outside the box. Like when he played in his plays, I mean, not in his teams, but in his plays, he would always reconsider every situation and find a way to win. And I mentioned a game we had played together where he won with choice scarf locked.
Cordelia
Like
using rest, yeah.
exactly, yeah. Then I mentioned Blue. I mentioned Ojama. I mentioned Tesung, CBB, Brofist. I was talking about Kratos Mana, Dexe, Benge for the creativity, and Nintendi for being a complete savage, to use Blunder's word.
God, I hate
You
that
know,
word. But yes,
dude,
Nintendi is crazy.
dude, when you mentioned earlier going,
Say it again.
that's
You
the
cut
kind
out.
of,
You cut out.
when you earlier mentioned going Ferrothorn on E. That's the kind of play Nintendi makes, and they always work. He always knows when to pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And like when he does them, they actually give him such a good advantage.
Nintendi is really out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like I think a player I like a lot, even though he was leaning on the crazy side recently, is Labos.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to give it to him that he know how to play the game. All generation, he would like take the time to find good teams, refine his work with all kind of play style.
Mm-hmm.
Just someone I respect for the work he put in the game, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Ojama, I hold in high regard for the same reason. He put a lot of work in his game, and that's something I have a lot of respect for.
Mm. Okay. Is that
Yeah.
everyone?
Yeah, I mentioned everyone, honestly.
Okay. So the last we got two more questions. Thoughts on the current metagame? Now, I don't know how much you keep up with Sun and Moon, so it doesn't really have to apply to that. So, I think you've been really into Advanced for the last couple months, so just give me your thoughts on that. What are the best Pokemon and strategies? Is anything broken? Although, I guess that's more of a current gen question, but what's overrated and what's underrated?
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's about Sun and Moon, I don't have to say about. I'm really not into the tier.
I've been trying this really underrated Pokemon called Ash Greninja. I think you might have heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I have to talk about ADV, I think ADV is like as good as it gets. It has the perfect balance of offense and defense. I actually really like the current state of ADV too. I think the recent not discoveries but advancement in the Spikes game in particular has been very beneficial for the tier. I don't like the whole Magdoll fishing aspect of it. Defense and hoping you are gonna safely win against the Skarmory stuff. But finding a good mix between using Pokemon such as Claydol or a Spinner and offense to get rid of Skarmories, and you can spin, so you have an advantage against Spike's team. But you also have to find a good balance so you don't just flat out lose to truly offensive team that will just run over you and abuse the weaknesses of Pokemon just like Claydol or Magneton. I really like it. It's not that defensive, even though my teams are popular right now. But there is a room for everything, basically.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
with things like Machamp coming around.
Yeah. Like, for example, if you want to try your offense, they're just surefire way to create openings in the offensive team. Like, for example, if you use Zapdos Baton Pass Lead, you always have the momentum early game. It's just really good. And it really rewards learning the tier and knowing how to play your teams. I really like that aspect of the tier of the metagame. And the other metagame I'm gonna talk about is Black and White, which is in a it's kind of in a different position because people are more opinionated on Black and White in general.
I feel like we're now in a place in Black and White where every team has a spinner.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true. Black and White used to be Hazard's World, but nowadays you have Tentacruel on every rain and Excadrill on every team.
Sand, yeah, and Sun is a thing, and I guess Dragmag doesn't necessarily, but even Dragmag likes Starmie. And Skarmory is considered borderline unviable.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I like Black and White, honestly. I think if you watch most Black and White games, you will find that it's a better player wins the game. It's the one who makes the best progress and knows the tiers the most. It's actually rewarding too. I know Latios is kind of hot take right now because a lot of people find it overpowered, and it's true that honestly, Latios Draco Meteor is one of the freest click of the tier, but I don't know.
But
I
then
think
you
there
get
is
trapped
a good
by Tyranitar, and then you're kind of I
just feel
didn't
like
need Latios for anything else.
Yeah, I just feel like the tier has a good balance of all the strong things, always finding their way into a win position. But since both players are abusing strong stuff, you have to do it before them. I don't know. I like the dynamics. I just dislike some people trying to chase with Sun, Sun Satu.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, it's not that perfect either, but yeah, it's around, so something to take into account. But it's still fine because there's Pokemon like Garchomp, which has literally no safe switching in the tiers. You can you slot Sworded's Garchomp on your team, and it's impossible to have zero way to open the opponent.
Pretty much, yeah.
Stuff like that.
It's awesome.
So, yeah.
All right, so we're at well over 2.5 hours now, so we're gonna,
yeah.
Hey, dude, I don't care. I enjoy
yeah, me
the hell
neither.
out of this.
It's really fun. I love.
And yeah, all right. So our final question is, can you say something really sexy in French?
No.
That is not our final question.
I was gonna say, tu ne comprends même pas ce que je vais dire, et c'est même pas sexy. dealer, please.
Whatever that means, I'm sure it was nice. Even though I'm sure you probably called me a jackass or something. Anyway, what can we expect for the future of McMeghan? So, our Sword and Shield's coming out. No spoilers, but Sword and Shield's coming out in a couple months. And what are your plans?
Okay, so regarding Sword and Shield in particular, as usual, that's always what I do when a new game comes. Mm-hmm. I'm more hyped about playing the in-game than the competitive part of it.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked about the actual game. I'm gonna play the shit out of them.
You are? And everyone I speak to says it looks terrible.
Yeah, and only afterwards I'm gonna look at the metagame and try to play. But I never play the metagame while I have to beat the storyline, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's gonna have to wait till that point. And as usual, I'm definitely gonna follow what's happened. I'm gonna people are playing, are using. I'm gonna be super interested in all the new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But am I gonna play it? I don't know. It's gonna depend on a lot of factors. It's gonna depend on my in IRL situation, the time I'm gonna have for it. It's probably gonna depend also on my feel on the tier. Although I'm gonna say that usually when a new gen comes out, it's too wild for me to actually put time into it. I like to wait till things settle down a little bit.
I like that idea, yeah, because there's so much broken stuff and
yeah. I'm more of a spectator at the start.
Mm-hmm. But I don't mean necessarily just Sword and Shield, but with how you recently mentioned to me that with winning Classic, you just have the hunger in you to play more. Most people win and they're like, all right, I'm going to take a break now. And you, just, on the other hand, just want to keep going. So what are your plans for that? I mean, we've got the Snake Draft coming up. You've shown an affinity for current gen UU ever since Black and White.
Yeah, even though I think it's actually trash now.
So you don't like Sun and Moon UU?
No, it's dude, stars are too strong. It's annoying to play actually.
Really?
Yeah, dude, there are 3 popular stars going around, and it's almost impossible to cover all of them in one playstyle. I don't know. I just don't have a super good feel for the tier, but I just like Pokemon as a whole right now. Like, I just enjoy playing the game. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy watching replays. I enjoy watching games. So I'm definitely gonna stay around. Gonna join a bit of everything. I don't have like super precise plan, but I'm gonna try to use my time and not like I'm not gonna try to use excuses like, oh yeah, I don't have the time to play, when we know that when we like something we always find the time to play it.
Of course.
So there is like the current Grand Slam that I'm still in 3 cuts. There is, I think, a Smogon Tour like
the last Smogon Tour with Black and White.
Yeah, that too. I'm considering, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I would like maybe to get it a bit into Sun and Moon OU, be it for Snake or for OLT. If not, I don't know, like just for the hell of it, you know. But yeah, just expect me to be active and join tournaments. And with that win from Classic, like, you know, I feel like all my efforts were worth it. I was even trying to convince myself before the final. I was like, okay, if I don't win, I should already be proud of what I achieved, and like not focus solely on the final result, because it was just a lot of fun to like spend all this time preparing, thinking about getting better. And I feel
when you care more about the result than the actual process, then you just end up torturing yourself. Yeah, and so I'm actually
this positive mindset and just enjoy the game in general and keep focusing of my improvement, and the results are gonna come with it. And that's what I was doing before the Classic, and well, look at how it worked. The Classic came with it. I was just focusing on getting better with my own team and my own style, and I got a good result.
Well, I'm glad that happened. All right, we're gonna finish off with some truly light questions. Your signature Pokemon for this is Articuno, although you've also shown an affinity for Charizard, Zapdos, and Espeon. Tell us about why these are your favorite Pokemon, your childhood Pokemon memories. You popped open that, microwave television or whatever it is you use in Belgium, and you saw them on the screen for the first time, or what happened?
I mean, on top of I like all aspects of Pokemon. I'm a huge Pokemon fan. It's not all about competitive. I just love playing all the in-game. I collect cards. I watch I watched all the movies. When I was a kid, I was, one crazy guy, always bought Pokemon merch.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it dates back to those days when I was a kid. I loved the legendaries for their like super cool design.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the birds, I like birds in general, and I think birds' design are usually pretty cool. And like just having those elemental legendary birds,
Mm-hmm.
I just always thought they were looking amazing. And like something I mentioned earlier, is that one of my favorite team from X1. Not only was this, I don't know if you remember it, but it was like Reiku, Greninja, Mega Venusaur.
Say it again.
It was an XY team with Reiku, Greninja, Mega Venusaur.
Yes, I
You
remember.
remember
Blue used to use that one a lot.
So it's still one of my favorite teams because not only I liked how it played, but I think it had amazing aesthetics. Because I like
It had
colorful
amazing what?
Pokemons. Aesthetics.
Aesthetics. Oh, yeah.
Aesthetics, no. Aesthetics, yeah. And I like legendary Pokemon and I like color. I
If I
like
remember
birds.
correctly, that team also had a Mew.
Yeah, it did.
That's just a
And
Gen 1 Fanatic's dream.
yeah, dude, and the legendary birds have everything. They are gracious, they are legendary, they are birds, and they are colorful.
Did you just say gorgeous as gracious?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right.
That's why I like Zapdos and Articuno a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Charizard is more leaning on the like cool badass side rather than elegant.
No Moltres?
Yeah, I love Moltres too. I like all of them.
Okay.
Charizard, Espeon is like just super cute and all, and it fit my current trend of using Sabrina avatars. It's in style.
True.
But
You're not bad with the aesthetics, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me ask: are you a big fan of the second Pokemon movie?
Yeah, actually, I liked the aesthetics were really great in it.
Mm-hmm.
The Pokemon featured are amazing because like and Lugia are also among my favorite Pokemons.
Mm.
But I think the plot was kind of meh.
The plot in a Pokemon movie? Are you kidding me?
I know, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like the plot from the third and is a bit better. I feel like the second movie just has nothing to it. You have this broad guy appearing on an island and he's the hero of the prophecy. Shit goes wrong and he saves everyone. Okay.
All right,
I feel
Ebert.
I feel like the first and the third movie had some kind of like bit more a bit like deeper themes.
Well, that's
That's
been
why-
film criticism with McMeghan, so I think we're gonna call it there. Good
That's
God.
gonna wrap it up.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for being on the show. This was our longest episode yet. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, dude. I hope it wasn't too long for the spectators, but when I get going on those subjects, I just can't stop.
I think they'll enjoy it. I think they'll. Plus, I mean, it's not required to watch this video in one burst anyway. But although if
exactly.
you want to, then sure. All right. So, do you have any closing words? Any words of advice for the young Pokemon trainers out there?
Honestly, I think this game is amazing because you can always focus on improvement and express your creativity through your team choice, team building. Mm-hmm. Enjoy yourself. Don't take it too seriously neither, but just enjoy it, dude. And don't be afraid to be passionate about things, be it Pokemon or anything.
Caring is cool.
Exactly.
All right. We're going to call it there. Thanks for watching or listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time.